had my girlfriend who's half Japanese and her mom's full Japanese, and I had them tell me how to say rice cracker in Japanese. And so we put it in kanji on the back quarter because it was a riced out Corvette. Like, I'm just shamelessly elevator pitching this new sales rep, right? He's like, you're a new distributor. It does sound cool. I'm going to give you the marketing director's contact information. And if you told him what you just told me, you might have a shot. Hey, dog, we heard you like polyurethane, so we put polyurethane on your polyurethane. I feel like a lot of people are just like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And if you throw like, 5 to 10 and 2 work, but the 2 that work could be a big change.
I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era.
Welcome back to the #1 Drift Podcast on YouTube. My name is Dawson, and today we have
Stuart Wilson.
Hell yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Oh man, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for letting me show up.
Absolutely. Came from Texas, right?
Yep, Houston, Texas.
Sick. So I've been out to Texas quite a few times this past year, so I'm sure I'll be out there again. But of course, before we get into it, look below the video. Make sure the subscribe button is not still red. If it is, go ahead and click that and hit the bell notification while you're at it so you never miss an episode. And then on top of that, just to give a brief description, a little bit more in depth on who you've got or who you are, what you got going on. So Steck is your driver, actually the first driver for Steck, right?
I believe so. I don't want to sound too pompous.
I saw it in your bio and I was like, is that true?
I thought about it. I was like, am I sounding too pompous here? But at the same time, I am proud of it because
I do the same thing. I just said #1 Drift Podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't really know if that's true, but to me it is.
Yeah, I think as far as drift specific relationship, I think I was the first, and then it kind of went from there. I think.
Cool.
So it's.
I'd wear the badge if it was. So
I think it. I'm really proud of it. There's a very long story there. About
fair.
For to do that. Once upon a time, I think the idea of paint protection film and drift car doesn't make sense in the slightest. And it's
I've got a shitload of questions for that too. So we're gonna dive a lot deeper into PPF and all that stuff because that's primarily what Steck is, right?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
For sure.
So and on top of that, he has his own detailing business and
it's a small
shop and
small business.
It's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, small business. Again, we're making it up as we go. So new business owner, veteran installer. So this will be like my 12th year doing paint protection film on cars, and was in the employee position for a decade. Working with big business, small business, private clients, and just wide variety of stuff. And so then a couple years ago, we were like, okay, the extra stuff that we're doing, it's very flattering when people are like, hey, I got a car for you. When can you do it? Hey, so you kind of get pulled.
Yeah,
and fortunately, I've got people that were open to letting me hey, man, if you want to make some extra money.
We'll start a business.
Yeah,
might as well. We got the clientele for it.
The demand was there, and just trying to kind of get a little bit better work-life balance, and then just all right, well, it's never going to be perfect. We just got to get started.
Yeah.
And so now, it's all kind of working hand in hand together, and it almost doesn't seem real at times because just the amount of cool opportunities that happen just if you just go for it.
Right. Right.
So
yeah. Cool. Well, we'll get into all that too. I know he also drives a C6 as well, so we're definitely going to get into that. But of course, I do want to let you guys know that Zeknova is now a part of the podcast. So we are helping you guys out with 20% off on tires. So don't miss out on that. You're going to need that throughout the year. And that should be the entire year. So take advantage of it. Code CircleOfdrift. That's always in the description. But on top of that, I do want to mention the Grassroots Hero steering wheels and, of course, the nasty gloves that just came out too. Customize them to whatever colors and stuff you want. And yeah, sorry, I just had to throw that in there before we got too deep because that's important. The tires, we need that. Them boys are getting expensive. But first question I got for you is just what is PPF?
PPF. So that's the acronym for paint protection film.
Cool.
Short and simple. That's it. It is film that protects your paint.
Well, distinguish it just a little bit, because like obviously it looks like wrap, just transparent wrap. So what are the differences? What is it used on primarily? Yeah. Why is it used for drifting? Stuff like that.
Gotcha. So paint protection film traditionally is, the best way to describe it in layman's terms is like, think like a screen protector for your phone, but for your car. And a lot of people do it on the front bumpers. You can do the entire front clips, or you can do entire cars with it. So depending on the kind of car it is, it makes more sense to do the full car. Maybe if you want to do just your bumpers. So you can cater a level of protection based off of, whatever the vehicle is and whatever the customer's priorities are. And it's very common in the high-end luxury exotic side. So, for example, like if a customer takes, like a Porsche 911 or a Lamborghini or something like that, that customer, very common to be like, they'll call you up and go, hey, like, let's do the full car, it's a drop in the bucket. Well. Yeah. And the difference between like the clear PPF, the difference in that is PPF is self-healing, and it's also wet apply. So it's kind of like to explain this for somebody that's never seen it go down or is new to it, it's like, I didn't even know that existed. There's a lot of people that don't even know that it exists. You squeegee it down wet, kind of like window tint. So it's kind of like a hybrid between window tint and vinyl. So there's a lot of the hand-eye dexterity, understanding stretch and body lines and things like that in the car. And then you got to kind of watch the way the liquid's moving and if the film is kind of grabbing preemptively and not getting distortions. So it's kind of a unique little skill set, and it's sort of anticlimactic in a way, because if I do a really good job, then I do a really good job hiding all of my time and effort. So
it's true.
So you come back and pick up the car and you're like, looks great, but it looks, hopefully like, a little shinier, a little glossier, than when you dropped it off. But that's for the customer that's like, I am in love with my car and I want to keep this looking as fresh as possible, like to preserve that I just bought that look.
Before we get into the rest of that conversation, I wanted to drop in and let you guys know that the new Grassroots Hero hats are on the 144 Racing's website. Nice surf cap with the rope on the front. They're like a almost dry fit material, so they're really comfortable, especially wearing them all day at the track and stuff. So if you're interested, grab one of those off the website. Grab a shirt as well if you haven't already. And let me know, would you want to see these hats in black or even possibly blue? I'm really digging the blue one. I don't know about you. But I'm not going to hold up any more of your time. If you want to grab some, they are on 144 Racing. Go check them out in the description. Other than that, let's get back to the podcast.
So, and it's really cool. It self-heals against like mild scratches and swirls. You can take like a wire brush to it and scratch it up, swirl it up.
Really?
And hit it with either a heat gun or throw hot water on it.
Okay, because I was going to ask about that.
It'll vanish.
With like vinyl and stuff, when you install it, you have to be extremely careful with like scratching the film, because sometimes you have to take that protective layer off of it or whatever. So I was gonna ask, like, how do you keep from scratching it, or is it just a part of the process and then it heals itself?
Yeah, well, you lubricate your squeegee on top, so like you spray it down with like a soapy water solution to help the squeegee glide.
That's fair.
But I mean the difference between a car that has PPF on it and one that doesn't, if you took two brand new units and put film on one car and not on the other, and said, hey, go drive 30 miles, go drive 30,000 miles and then come back and see me. Yeah. The difference is going to be like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because just the amount of stuff that just hits your car on a daily basis, and we're just driving. I mean, we don't think anything of it. We're doing 80, set like whatever down the free. Just the amount of stuff that you're just hitting at that speed every single day.
Oh, I noticed it with my brick of a front end on the Silverado. Oh, yeah. With all the chrome and everything. Just cakes right into the chrome, too.
For sure.
So bad.
For sure. Yeah. And that's where the PPF really shines in just preserving that fresh look.
Right, right. Now, you primarily use Steck. Like, that's all the PPF film you use, right?
They're my bread and butter right now.
Gotcha.
I used a bigger brand for a long time, because that was a I don't want to say bigger, I'll just say they're a large brand, but I was trained with them and worked for a corporate location, and then I worked with a small business that also distributed those products. And so I was kind of in this little pigeonhole where it was almost like, it was almost like, okay, like we got Girl Scout cookies, you know, all we got to do is sell more Thin Mints. Like why change, like you know what I mean? Like why change the recipe? Like people know it, people like it, like just do it. Well, then when you start playing with some of these other films and they kind of bring you samples by, and what was unique about Steck that originally got my attention is they were one of the first ones to get into like fashion PPF and color change PPF. So what's happening now in the industry is we have vinyl trying to act like PPF and we have PPF trying to act like vinyl.
Okay.
So now it's gotten into, okay, well, we can wrap a whole car in PPF, but imagine if that clear PPF was color. And Steck is great at implementing.
So it's almost acting as like a really deep clear.
Well,
in that sense.
The perhaps more accurate term for paint protection film, and I don't want to say it wrong. Somebody's going to call me out, but this is kind of a way to think about it, and maybe this phrase will start to catch on a little bit. Is in certain circles they're calling it paint replacement film. So you're protecting. So like let's say you have a black car, right? Okay. And so it's black, so you put the PPF on it. You're definitely protecting the paint underneath because that's the base. But now we can change the color, and it looks like a crazy expensive paint job with an amazing clear coat, and it still self-heals.
That's wild.
And so they're phenomenal at coming out with these products that have like legitimate like paint color codes in the film. And like,
what?
Yeah, they've got like a color shift dino green that's like, if you look up this, I forget the color's name. I think it's like Mamba green off of a Porsche color code. It's like a paint that people pay big money for that custom paint job. Well, you can order this film that's got that color.
So, okay.
It's wild.
What about like, so what I'm thinking is, I'm not going to say the color that I'm going to do for the car this year, but so is there like a film that is essentially like a high gloss clear, but has flake throughout it?
Yeah.
And just flake?
Yeah.
No fucking way, dude.
It's called Dino Prism, and it's nuts. It's got pink, blue, and purple like color shift pigments in the clear. They just released a matte version too, so they have it in gloss and satin, like a satin finish matte. And it'll take like if you put it on a
please
gloss,
don't do matte.
If you
sorry, please don't do matte.
If you put it on a black car, it almost gives it like this midnight purple 3S.
Oh my god,
where
it's so cool.
I'll have to show you pictures of it. On white, it's more subtle, and you look at it and you're like, whoa, what's going on with that white? And you can see the pink, blue, purple, and then it shifts. But if you do it on black, midnight purple 3 is maybe not the right color. There's some browns in there. The color shift is nuts, and you can just see it like just shift around. That's what's on Nathan Chin on his RX-7 and BRZ.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's on a blue car, so the undertones are still there, and it looks amazing. And protected his livery all year and all that good stuff. But if you do that on a black car, the transformation is stark. And it's like very like, wow, that's crazy.
Oh my god, this is so cool. Okay. I don't know much about wrap stuff in general, let alone PPF. So, is there like a market to where you wouldn't even necessarily send out a whole roll of film or anything? It would just be like samples of these specific little, almost like what I was saying, the clear with the flake over it or certain pearls in it or whatever that people could test over their paint job and like see which to do the real clear with, I guess. Is that like a market that is already tapped into, or? Well,
they certainly do the swatch books like for their installers and people that are because a lot of the brands, the way that they kind of protect the quality of what's going on is it's not marketed as like a direct to consumer product. It's more like, hey, this is it's not sold as this is a DIY product. All you got to do is like let it like
that's fair,
because it does require a certain level of understanding of the product and skill set. So it's kind of, if you want to get this done, then contact your local installer or someone who's like been to training and certified by them to install this, because it's very easy to, when things start going wrong, that's when everybody wants to blame the product instead of their technique and things like that. So you have, like, if you've never done it before,
that whole process.
Yeah, then it makes the product look bad, and then people are like, "Oh, this stuff's trash," and it's like, no, I mean, it's amazing, but just because you just bought a roll and jumped into it, like, let's give it the old college try, and now you got to put out the fires on the internet. So it protects the consumer and it protects the person paying for the service, and then also the product integrity as well.
Yeah,
making sure that you get a good service by people that know what they're doing.
What's one of the coolest like combinations you've seen with that concept of PPF?
One of my favorites, excluding my own because I'm biased, but
right.
Which mine is, that's a whole other thing, and it's arguably,
You can explain yours real quick if you want.
Yeah, sure. I have two different. Dyno forged. It's called Dyno forged carbon, and it's a forged carbon paint protection film.
I finally gave into the peer pressure and got myself a sim. Now this off season I can get some seat time virtually in the sim at some tracks that I've never been to, or just practice on tandems. And I don't really replicate much, but what I like to is my nasty gloves, because I use those in the car religiously, and it helps keep some familiarity to the budget sim that I have. And you can actually customize these to whatever color you want on 144 Racing. So let me know, what setup are you working with, and what gloves do you like to drive with on the sim?
So we have two different ones on there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a livery within a livery. So
it's like a better version of hydro dipping or whatever that shit's called.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, the depth on the PPF is, it's multi-layer, and it's like 10 mils thick. So a traditional vinyl wrap is like 3.5 mils thick, and
and that still feels like extremely thick.
Yeah, and they have air release in the adhesive, and like if you mess something up, you just heat it up and it goes back to normal. Well, PPF it's very, you can stretch it a lot, but it doesn't have that tolerance built into it, because it's a different style product and things like that, and it goes down wet. So you kind of want it to float right up until the minute you want it to grab. And then, so we kind of made a livery out of the films itself, and then kind of layered the JDM style livery on top of that. So it's kind of like, it's got a lot of depth, and, arguably, I was one of those guys back in the day that was like, oh, the fake carbon, and it's like, oh, it's so ricey, or, whatever you want to say about it, right? But the whole point was to make people ask the question, because I'm promoting what I do, like I do PPF and wrap.
That's true. Yeah.
So if people are going to come up and talk about it, you can't help but notice it. And so if someone comes up and goes, is this real? So the conversation's already opened. And then if they think it's cool and they're like, dude, I've never...
It's honestly really smart.
Yeah. Well, for them and, like First Deck coming up with that. But that was kind of the mindset there, was just to open a line of conversation when people saw it, and just to have a bit of shock value. And I got the idea, where that came from originally, was the HGK cars kind of inspired that. Because how they had the full carbon Kevlar body kits.
Yeah.
So the carbon Kevlar, if you're running full carbon Kevlar, that's amazing already, right? So when you throw a Eurofighter kit like at a carbon Kevlar and all this other stuff,
just imagine a carbon Kevlar with some of the shimmering PPF.
That's where I was going next.
Okay, cool.
That's where I was going next.
Sick, dude.
You're
turn make it like a purple carbon Kevlar. That'd be fucking nuts.
So it's yeah, you're on the same wavelength. So someone had like a carbon fiber like GTR that was like, and this was real carbon, and then they put the prism on top of it. So it has this purple, blue, pink color shift, but you can see the black carbon weave underneath this crazy candy metallic.
That's nuts.
Which ironically, the real carbon fiber, like real pieces, right? Like the roofs and all that stuff, a lot of them, they make them in a resin, right? Well, they got a control price point somewhere. Like I'm not like a master on like carbon fiber production, but I mean, how many carbon hoods and carbon roofs and pieces have you seen where that top layer just disintegrates preemptively fast?
Yeah.
So putting PPF on carbon fiber pieces,
Almost a must if you're gonna run it raw.
especially on a roof. Like a roof, a top side wing, a hood. Like if you had something nice and pretty, like a brand new PPF, like a brand new carbon fiber, anything. If you put paint protection film on that, like right out of the gate, that piece would look so fresh for so much longer, and you wouldn't like have that destroyed. Because I get people all the time, like you see it's like sun baked and there's like a big spot fade.
Absolutely.
And they're like, man, I don't know, like, do I need to sand this down and repaint it or whatever? But when you have carbon fiber, there's a little bit of like, you kind of want to show off that it's carbon fiber rather than cover it up. So it's kind of,
when you spend that much money on it,
for sure, right? And it's the same logic with the HGK cars. So that was like and Christop's Blues was started that. Because he was promoting his company and that, hey, we make these. And then they had a very simple livery, I think, at the time. Because they were like, hey, we want to show off that it's full carbon Kevlar. Like, that's the point. So to paint over that would almost be like, you'd be covering up all the cool factor, right? So a lot of people, and you see it now where you see the, like Red Bull, I forget the guy's name. They have a GT86 that's got a full, like, Red Bull livery, and you can see the exposed.
Shanahan?
It might be Shanahan. I think it's another guy. It's a really interesting livery. I'm kicking myself for not knowing the name, but
they'll scream at us in the comments. It's fine.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But he has a really cool Red Bull livery on top of the Kevlar, so you can see that the base panels are Kevlar, which adds another cool factor. So I kind of took the faux version of that, and they had some samples at the shop that I was working at and dropped them off, and I was looking into becoming a new distributor. I was going to base my small business and that service around that brand because I was like, they're at the forefront of these fashion paint protection films, which have a lot longer warranty span and lifespan on a car than a traditional vinyl wrap, especially like in Houston or somewhere hot. I mean, getting like 1 to 3 years out of some of these vinyl wraps is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And that's why it's very common to see ceramic coating go down right on top of it, like fresh. They're trying to keep that sun from just destroying that wrap right out of the gate. So the polyurethane the polyurethane paint protection films are lasting way longer, and they maintain that paint-like finish. So there's an appeal there to like a high-end customer that maybe wants a color change. And when you see these fashion PPFs on the car, it literally looks like a top dollar like paint job, and sometimes have even more of an even finish because doing show car paint work is pricey.
Oh yeah,
and thinking about buying like a brand new car, for example, and then going, I immediately want to change the color. Well, you just opened a huge can of worms, just sent the value like
way down the drain.
So to be able to change the color and then maybe even get a color that would have cost, like the satin PPF conversions. Those are really popular because you can take any car, like let's say like you have black or white or whatever, you put the satin paint protection film over it. Well, now you have the satin look, and the satin PPF is much easier to take care of than the satin paint job. But that paint job is upsold at the dealership for like, when you order that spec, it's not uncommon to see like, oh, well, this like a BMW, like an M or something like that. If you get satin gray in that, and you look at that price point on that paint job, it's up there.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
So it's really cool to go, hey, I can protect my car and get the style that I didn't want to pay, like the price of a whole nother car for. I mean,
so true though.
Kind of like I can have my cake and eat it too, and protect. So that's where the paint protection film stuff like really shines there. Sorry, we're getting off on a tangent.
No,
there.
You're good. I am curious though on the carbon Kevlar stuff. Obviously, like people wrap it and everything, but I assume the PPF would be exponentially better at stretching with the product. Like as far as if you hucked it too far into the wall with the carbon Kevlar kit, like is the PPF gonna naturally just bubble up after that in that area, or is it going to mostly stay stuck down, scraped off? Like how does that
So
process?
there is a threshold of like, all right, PPF ain't saving that.
Right,
So just to
exactly.
be clear and accurate, right? In theory, if the panel moved, you know, essentially like if you have give in the car,
Yeah.
essentially you wouldn't necessarily absorb all that impact on the film itself because you got some give. So I can tell you that I have had some bumps and scrapes with my car.
Yeah.
I've bumped a couple friends. I've had some uh-ohs here and there. And when I took a video of it, I was like, watch this tire stuff. And like I wiped the tire stuff off.
Yeah, no, see, so
'cause
I've
the-
seen a
the
lot of
Corvette
Nate's
door
video like
flexes
that.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So there was some wiggle room like that where it's the overall presence of the car definitely stays clean. Now, a drift scenario is about the most extreme you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the real world, like, you know, if you go run into the back of somebody, you know,
Yeah.
but the amount of times to come back to a real world scenario, like the amount of times that I've seen things just get hit, like somebody's daily driver that's nice, just take a hit and you can see, and they're like, all right, well, let's pull the film. You pull the film and there's no paint damage. So now all you have to do is just PDR said dent.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of back in the game and you can put the PPF back on. And so,
Yeah, yeah, and that's more or less what I meant.
For sure.
It wasn't like a full like demolishing your rear
Yeah.
bumper or anything. Just with carbon Kevlar, let's just say you had about a foot of room of give of just the bumper to
Yeah.
move, and you get it to move that much. Does it cause any like creasing or anything on the PPF, or
it
is
might
it,
a little bit. I think,
does it just naturally move with it?
yeah, I think the first person to put that one all the way to the test under that exact scenario was Adam LZ with the with the first BMW chassis that they had built for the season, because Steck was there and was filming content with him, and they put some PPF on the back bumper
That's cool.
specifically for that kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And Adam's like, you know, I'm probably gonna hit that wall. And then that was when, you know, the accident in question happened, where you know, the car goes skateboard for a second. But surprisingly, it took a lot more than you would expect. So I mean, it's got a point of like, all right, like this is smoked. But you know, it's totally in line with. I think it really shines in drifting because not necessarily as like, it is a premium product, so you don't necessarily want to like go spend, you know, wrap your whole car in this to do this if like it's severely accident prone.
Yeah.
It's just like the ultimate torture test to visually, you know,
Right,
call
right.
attention to a product that can take a beating like that and go, hey, how can I get some of this on my own car? But, you know, the concept of it bouncing off a wall like an RC car. And then being like,
Oh,
this
right,
film's
right.
like the Jam, you know, like that's a little on the extreme
Well, I'm just
side.
curious about the flexibility of it once it's
definitely
already
flexible.
applied, because like I run KBD kits, so I would love to put some in certain areas of the car, maybe not a full ordeal, because I mean it's just naturally going to happen. So being able to do that on a KBD kit is almost as flexible as
That's
carbon Kevlar. So
That's been a thought. I've actually chatted with Irving a couple times because
cool.
he drives street legal in Texas,
yeah,
and he's a good dude, and like we're always messing with each other.
love Irv.
Yeah, he's great.
hilarious.
Great, and he's having a blast just doing Texas street legal, and you know, and so we've all kind of like seen him grow, and he's having a blast and on this journey, and then everybody's like, "Come on, man," because like he's supporting the community. So, but then he's having a blast, and then everybody wants to be a part of it. And we've talked a little bit about it, and we were talking about like, oh, maybe we could do something where it's like an exhibit thing where it's like, hey, dog, we heard you like polyurethane, so we put polyurethane on your polyurethane, like the meme. You know? But we're
That
like,
would be fucking hilarious.
But we got to see if we can get it to stick, because there is that challenge
Yeah.
of, do we have the right grab from the adhesive to polyurethane? How do we achieve that? So we got to do a little bit of playing with that.
I'm
But
sure it'd
in
be a pain in
theory,
the ass to put on. You'd have to have the kit like really hard mounted, I'm sure, to be able to get
something like that.
enough of the because like, dude, I just watched the reel that who was it? Larry Chin posted of his R34 getting PPF. they were beating the dog shit out of that PPF, just manhandling the hell out of it. And dude's like shoving his whole arm up in it while it's on the bumper and stuff, and like it's crazy to me.
It's tricky, and what he's doing right there, and that I haven't seen the whole video. I just saw the clip of it. I was like, oh man, because I wanted to do a collab with Larry Chen, because
cool.
I have a bucket list of like people that I want to like PPF their cars. What you're seeing is that challenge of keeping the film floating across those kind of complex 3D body lines.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's not air release, so it's all wet apply. So if it gets stuck on like high points, like the knuckle on my hand, you know, that's going to be the area that's prone to distorting first. So trying to keep that floating right before you squeegee it. You get something complex like an R34 bumper, it can be challenging. So I'm sure they had their work cut out for them.
It looked so different the way they were applying it, especially being not just obviously the wet factor of it, but like you have to form it while it's wet and hope you have it accurate. I assume by like what you said, the way the water moves underneath the film or something.
Sure.
So that's really impressive the way that it's laid down in that sense. I did notice, however, that a lot of guys tend to use a steamer versus like a heat gun or any type of other heat applicant. Why is a steamer better versus the other?
Ironically, like whenever I was trained, we were only using steamers for the removals. So I think there's something to be said about like when you see people implement new techniques. I could see where a steamer, it's a wet heat, so it doesn't dry things out. And sometimes a steamer can kind of heat a large general area with wet heat because it's obviously steam, so it's wet. Yeah. And to kind of generally warm something up. It kind of acts more like an infrared lamp than a heat gun that's kind of just laser beaming that heat in a certain spot. So I think it's safer to kind of like, hey, we're wetting the top of the film. We're not necessarily concentrating that heat into a spot.
So you don't use a steamer on install?
I try to not use heat in the middle of the install, like during that sort of part, like that positioning of the film, because I like to see exactly what the film is doing in the natural. The only time I would do that, it was really cold in Houston, and like we had the freeze going on. Yeah. And the bad weather comes in, and obviously it gives your AC unit some problems, and then all of a sudden you don't have heat in there. So like if the ambient temperature's so cold that it's making the film stiffen up, a steamer could really help you kind of navigate that problem. So I could definitely see where they're using that for that scenario. But I like to kind of keep the film as natural as possible, because when you add heat to the PPF, you're almost prone to kind of overstretching something, and you have a false idea of where that threshold of the film is, and then that's prone to fail later. So I would rather get the stretch nailed in the natural so that I don't have the chance of like, oh, I've actually overstretched this and it looks pretty now, but when I come back tomorrow, it's going to be... So I don't want to interfere with that, but there's a few times where it's like, man, it's so stiff because it's cold in here. We got to, get a little bit back to a workable temperature. So
that's fair.
It's honestly just knowing how to make best use of the environment you're in there. That's where that comes from.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, what is like the best scenario you've seen PPF almost like kind of save someone or be able to keep? Let's just use drifting, for example, because we dirty the hell out of it with tire and all that stuff. So what's the wildest scenario you've seen PPF help out?
Ironically, probably my own car. My poor buddy Rudy.
Biased.
My poor buddy Rudy just got a and I'm gonna embarrass myself here for the sake of your audience. And he's like, "Yeah, tell on yourself." But he has a yellow G35 that's like he does pro-am with it, but this thing is arguably, it's pro level. I consider it pro level capable. When you see this thing, it's like nuts. It's this yellow 4-door G35 dog box transmission, like rear mount radiator, like GWABZ power 2J. I think it's close to like 700, something like that.
Fun car.
Yeah, he's been building it for a long time, and then gets it all up and running, and the back's all hollowed out. And he helps me out on my car a lot. Like he does a lot of like my alignments and stuff. So like if I need to change suspension stuff, you already know the cars will need an alignment. So a lot of times it's easier. I'm like, hey dude, let me come drop the car off.
Yeah.
You know, set everything up so that I can pick this up and it's squared and we go drive next weekend. So, and he gets me in all the time, has been taking care of me for years. Well, he gets this car up and running and is all proud of it. And he's been driving it for a while. It's an absolute rocket ship. Well, we're at the police academy, and bad combination of scenarios where I roll up on him and I'm like, you know, like, what's up? And he goes, dude, I have no tire left. Like I can chase you if you want me to chase you. I'm like, yeah, let's hit it. And so I lay down like a lap that I'm like, hey, I'm gonna give him something fun. Like we're gonna throw a heater on it. Like maybe somebody will get some photos. We'll have some fun. And we pull back around, and I'm like, all right, well, that was cool. And I see him out, and he looks at me. He goes, I could probably do one more. And you know that phrase, right? And so
never say that.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, so he's like, I could probably do one more. Like, all right. And so this dude walks me so hard off the line. And this is dead tires, right? So this tells you how freaking fast this car is.
Yeah.
And this is on slick police academy, like,
Gotcha.
like surface. Like it's not road course asphalt, right? And so anyway, so he walks me down the straight. So I'm trying to make up ground, and I'm pretty comfortable there. So, and you see me in the video clip, I don't know if it's smoke or sweat or what. You see me reach for my visor like something's in my eye, and something was in my eye. And I reach, and you see me reach for it twice. Like I close it, and then I try to close it again. But it's weird. I have something in my eye. I don't know, but my hand motions are off. So he goes, like we're in the sweeper, and then he goes to transition, this big freaking cloud of smoke. And from my, like the way it looks to me, and even my video, is like we're relatively, like there's some distance. Like he's got me big time. And I'm just trying to do my best to keep up with it. Well, all of a sudden he hits the little manji in the transition, and all of a sudden it's like this time glitch where he's way up there. And I'm like, how is that even possible? and it's like the smoke like dissipates and he's up there. I'm like, dude, what?
You teleported. What the fuck?
Yeah. So I'm like, my transition timing's off. This is all like my transition timing's off. It's weird. And so I'm like, well, I got to make up some ground.
Yeah.
So I'm like on throttle and kind of cutting the line a little bit to make up the distance. And all of a sudden I see his car is like full rotated.
Oh shit.
And I mean, and the car has got gangster angle to begin with. Like it's wise fab up front. And and you know, that's what I'm running up front. So like I'm kind of used to like, all right, well, I'll, you know, let's match each other and we'll both roll out of it. We just, all of a sudden it's like time stops and he's just kind of hanging there. And I guess he's waiting on it to catch back grip a little bit.
Oh yeah, he was out of tire completely at that point.
So I think that might have been what happened, because like I'm basically on throttle where he's like, I'm expecting him to just rocket ship like he just did. And then it's the, like I zigged when I should have zagged, and then so like I'll totally own my part in that, like from the entry to the, you know, the messed up part of it. And so basically I'm coming up on him, and this is all to talk about PPF.
I know, right? Yeah.
So anyway, I'm coming up on him, and I kind of am bailing out of the lap right as he goes to swing back and transit. And so the rear like corner of the car like hits my door, takes my mirror off, snags the fender, and hits the wheel.
Damn.
And so but I'm kind of spinning away from it as he's transit. It's a very odd combination, and it shifted like all of his car over, and like messed up a tail lamp.
Oh,
and I had just had like one of the best like performances. Like I think I had a podium like the Saturday. This was on a Sunday. This was day 2 of drive. And Saturday I'd had a podium, and it was like my first podium. So I went from hero to zero like that
real quick.
And now you're the guy that just took out the pro car, right? So, but I felt really bad, and I owned my part in it.
Yeah.
I even sent him some money too. I was like, dude, like, this is just a bad combo.
That's really cool of you. Most people wouldn't do that.
Well, he's taken care of me before and like squeezed me in, and you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And and we didn't get on the internet and, you know, fight it out. And it was actually kind of like everybody knew. And then like he he was obviously gutted because he's got all this time and energy in the car. And then I'm like, well, there you go. So, you talk about imposter syndrome afoot, right? So I'm just like, dude, I'm so gutted that I did this. Well, anyway, so I go back home. Now we can get to the PPF part. With my long story there, but just, there you go. So it's an actual drift related accident with a story. Yeah. But I went back, and I guess I was kind of blown away, and I sent him videos, and like with like a little bit of like, I used just a little bit of like not even rubbing compound, more of like a WD-40, and then or something of the equivalent. Yeah, and then I put I had a little bit of like lacquer thinner, like a paint thinner, and I just put just a little bit on a rag, and it all but wiped off like 95% of what happened to my car, and it in a couple areas it just tore like the very top coat, like it didn't even go all the way through the layers.
That's crazy.
Of the forged carbon, and I wiped it off and posted a reel, and everybody's like, what the heck is that?
That's marketing right there.
Pretty much. But obviously in a real world, like with a customer's car, it's like they're gonna want the PPF replaced. But for me, I'm like, man, it looks good enough, we're gonna send it again. So versus rewrapping the whole door and all that. So
that's super cool though.
Yeah.
You get that much forgiveness out of it.
Yeah, really was. So sorry for the long-winded story.
No, that was
but maybe
essentially exactly what I asked for.
Value.
That was perfect. Yeah. But, well, I do want to ask for anyone that is interested in getting a PPF done. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you do it at your shop, so anyone in Houston area, they can come out. But how much does an average PPF full car cost? So, just an average size car.
So with Stex Dyno Shield, which is like my bread and butter, that's a 10-year warranty, like paint protection film.
10 years.
Yeah, it's not a cheap product. And the service takes a while. So, and also full disclosure, like I'm in like a mobile installer phase right now. Like we're working towards a retail location. Yeah. So I do a lot of business to business work. And then where I kind of started doing this is during COVID, for like I was doing extra work here and there, and just like because nobody knew when the hammer was going to drop. So if you had somebody trying to give you money, you better say yes and figure it out.
Right.
Because you never know. Like, is this good? Is this bad? Like, when's the next? So I ended up doing PPF in a lot of like private clients' garages, and that's kind of a that's kind of a popular thing in Houston right now. Is they have like these luxury garage man cave sort of things, where they have like, and it's super freaking cool. Where like, you walk in there and someone's got 3 to 4 supercars, and then like massive TV screens and driving simulators upstairs, and so
cool.
I had that experience, and that was when I started going like, I think this could be a thing. And believe it or not, there's some of these cars are so pricey, they enjoy that kind of come to me service, because some of these cars are so up there in pricing that anytime that car hits the road, it's a liability, and then taking that car to a shop is time, and then bringing it back. So I just found a little niche where I'm kind of through word of mouth and kind of handling people like that, and then staying busy shop to shop.
Yeah.
So I'm almost to the point where it's like, we got to figure out how big we're scaling, how fast, because now I'm wearing too many hats.
Picking up.
So the cost factor is like a full car. It's not uncommon to see, just as a baseline, like a full car you could see like at $69.95 for the full car. That's the clear stuff. So you'd be close to like $7,000 on like a C8 Corvette, or and it all kind of, that's just a baseline. There's some people that are higher, there's some people that are cheaper. It depends on what part of the U.S. you're in and what the market is, and so you kind of pivot like that. But you could see like $7,000 for a full car.
That's crazy.
So so it maybe
sounds worth it though. So like, I get it, but
for sure.
And especially, you said, how long is install process on average?
It can be, depending on the car and the people and the team and the process. Like I usually allot for like me doing everything.
Yeah.
Usually for about a week or more, depending on the job.
That's so wild.
So like I just did a Defender for a good buddy of mine's shop. And so we did the satin PPF on the on the gray paint.
Okay.
And then we did the gloss PPF on all of the gloss black. So he used 2 different PPFs to protect the whole car, and the amount of pieces that got protected on that thing. If I showed you the layout of the patterns, like, it's unreal. And then because we do a custom modification, like sometimes we'll hand bulk a piece. Like if I'm like, hey, I can get better coverage, but the patterns are kind of, they're very important to quality PPF is like,
Gotcha.
So having a good software with a good database that fits really tight and has good tolerances and things like that. And it just looks like the craziest jigsaw puzzle you've ever seen. Like think CAD for patterns is what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was a very big job. So something like that, you know, by the end of it, you're like, whoa, I need a drink or something.
I need a few.
Something, because, you know, it's taxing and tedious, but that, you know, roundabout there.
Now, just for anyone that is interested in the more like prismatic looking stuff or flake or any of the color shifting ones, what would that kind of change as far as price goes? Like, how much more would you be considered for that? Is it harder to work with, so that adds more to it? Or
Steck does a really good job of making that product very easy to work with without losing the function. So a lot of it's going to transfer over. You'll probably see, I think confidently, you could probably expect to see between 20 to 35% maybe increase in pricing, because the material itself is more expensive. And then anywhere you don't put the film is going to have bleed. So like if you had a white car and you were trying to go red, so take into account what it would take to make PPF that's 3 times thicker than a vinyl wrap, get into those cracks and crevices and go around corners. That's, you know, if you were trying to take a white car red, anywhere you don't have that red, you're going to see white.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of extra labor and a lot of extra skill set that goes into how do I take a non-air release vinyl that a PPF that you don't really use a heat gun on to just, you know, making that go around corners properly. You use heat on the end, but it's a totally different mindset than the vinyl wrap side. It takes a lot of extra finesse, and the next thing you know, you've got a lot of hours tied up in this project. So you do have to price accordingly, or you'll lose your mind on a.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I get
so
that.
It's we got something for everybody depending on the price point and what your priorities are and where the car is at. And so and they have a whole new line coming out called Force Shield, which is pretty cool. And that's a 5-year paint protection film, but somehow they've figured out how to it's not even, if it is out, I haven't messed with it yet, but they've been advertising it and saying that it's coming, and they've got like globs and globs of colors coming. And somehow they figured out how to incorporate the air release adhesive into it.
No way.
And it's still all polyurethane. So a lot of the knockoffs they're like a vinyl with a polyurethane top coat on top of it, and they're calling it a PPF. Well, this is like all the way polyurethane, and so they've got some stuff coming out. I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but they did some demos at SEMA with this black, and they like laid it down. It looked like a black painted mirror, like amazing. Pulled the whole thing back up, and then started playing with it again. And they did that like 3 or 4 times on the. It was kind of ridiculous.
Jesus.
So I'm hoping to play with that and see, like, you know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And that new 5-year film I think could be, especially that with some of the adhesive. I don't want to say anything correct on the price point, but I'm excited to. I'm excited to play with it and see where that threshold is, because they might be the first ones to have cracked the code with a product that's going to last, do that kind of stuff with the air release, look like paint, but then also at a price point that appeals to maybe a broader audience.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's exciting to just kind of be a part of that alone. You know?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how it works, just as I know they don't really do just direct to consumer, but as just trying it yourself, just to see how it would go, or just doing like simple mirrors or something, or, you know, certain spots of the car by yourself.
For sure.
As far as running your own business on everything, though, how do you think owning your own business, doing all of the PPF stuff and detailing and everything, has benefited the drifting side of your life?
That was actually when everything shifted, because it's, and this is no disrespect to anybody out there, and I don't want to discourage anybody, but sometimes it's tricky to maybe act on your own ideas when you have to, maybe like if you have to necessarily like sell somebody on, like if you have to sell your boss on an idea.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I worked with some great people that, you know, would kind of encourage that. Like my previous employers, are like, if I had good ideas, they would do like, oh, that's awesome. And they would, you know, kind of jump on board with it.
That's cool.
But I know that it's incredibly difficult for a lot of people to kind of pitch an idea and have, you know, your higher up see value in it.
Oh yeah.
So when you do your own thing, you absorb all of this risk, but then you have the opportunity to kind of at least take some action, and at least see how something's going to play out. And maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but at least you have it's like, well, nobody's stopping you. So if you believe in it, then let's see what happens. And I think a lot of people are, for lack of a better way to put it, I feel like a lot of people are just like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And if you throw like, you know, 5 to 10 and 2 work, you know, but it's like, but the
Say
two,
that again.
but the 2 that work could be a big change. And it's like, you know, it's like you only got to get it right once for something really cool to happen.
Yeah.
So you could have messed up 15, 20 times before, but if this one idea is awesome, then people don't even think about, oh, he messed up 15 times prior. All they know is that guy got it right on that one. And look at that. So the small business thing and the drifting, the way that happened, this is a really cool story. I'll share the whole. For me, it's cool. I think your audience members will find it cool. I'll try not to turn this thing into a novel, but it is super cool. I guess it started like I was about to go there with the HGK cars, but I had a sample of their product in my hand. And I was looking at it, and it's the Dino Forge red wine, and that's what's on my car right now.
Yeah.
And I had that sample and was like, you know what would be cool is if I could somehow convince them to like sponsor my car, and it would look like an HGK car, like that concept of like a full Kevlar car, but it would be a PPF instead of full carbon Kevlar body panels. And it would be an attention getter. And I was just daydreaming about it. And like my coworkers were like, yeah, that would be cool and blah, blah, blah. And it was, you know, I had just kind of said it in passing. And what ended up happening was I was setting up my new account, and I had already basically told the people that I was working with that was like, hey, like, I think I'm going to try to do my own thing. And I think I'm going to go for it. And they were like, all right, well, we support you in it. And so, like, you know, we didn't leave anybody high and dry or burn any bridges or anything like that. So, and it was like, I think it was like 30 days or more notice. It wasn't like, I'm out, you know, it was, and thank God for that, because that came into play later. But, so we, I was talking with my rep at the time, like my new rep. I was like, just setting up the bid, like, hey, you got your LLC and DBA and all that stuff. And my rep, Daniel Balabanis, actually is his name. Anybody interested in being a stack distributor, hit him up. So I was talking with him on the phone, and I was like, yeah, just curious, like, what do you guys do for marketing materials and XYZ? At the time when I was asking that question, I was thinking that I was like, do you guys have any like stock footage or like videos or just things out, like a resource where, hey, as a distributor, you have access to this. Feel free to post this on your page and stuff like that.
Like a media pack.
Correct, yeah. And I was just like, what do you guys? And they're like, oh, we do this, and, you know, we do that. And so he's going down this line, and then he gets to the last thing, and he's like, yeah, we also sponsor Fuel Fest. And so that was when my brain goes, ding. And I was like, hold on, I was like, you guys sponsor Fuel Fest? Like, yeah, we're one of the major sponsors of the Fuel Fest event. Well, I had already signed up to drive the Fuel Fest Texas event, and that's where we do all of the paid ride-alongs, and big customer-facing event. So, and they're like, yeah, we have a booth there and some other stuff. And so this was
You
like
have a car there?
correct. So this was kind of like the moment, right? Sorry, I'm messing with my headset here.
No, you're good, dude.
Don't want to mess you up.
Thing.
So anyway, so I was talking with Daniel there, and I was like, hey, so just so you know, like I've got a Corvette, and I'm signed up to drive that event. And at the time, I had this 945 garage wide body that was sitting in my garage, and I had done a first version of my livery in vinyl, and it was cool, but I was having fun and was just trying my first hand at like, let me see what I can do with these, and it was cool, and like I even made fun of myself, you know, and like I had my girlfriend who's half Japanese and her mom's full Japanese, and I had them tell me how to say rice cracker in Japanese, and so we put it in kanji on the back quarter because it was a riced out Corvette, and I'm making fun of myself saying like, hey, I'm a rice cracker, right? Which I don't know if we need to edit that out or not, but like, with the amount of people that come up and they're like, hey man, I like that Japanese writing. That stuff's cool. And there's literally like my friend edits like it's called a senbei. It's like an actual like rice cracker. I think that's the word, like a rice caker. And it's in the design with the letters, and like nobody ever noticed it or said anything about it. And I've got this like, you know, cringe level kanji on the back quarter making fun of myself, and nobody ever said anything about it. So I'd gotten into a fender bender with a friend of mine at a CODA demo. And weird series of events. He hits the brakes. I move forward, like just ridiculousness. But basically, I plowed the back of his S13 like in the starting grid. Like we didn't even get on track. It was like guy says go. My butt, like I'm looking at the traffic. I'm looking at the flagger. Says go. My buddy's like, hell no, there's cars coming. Just another one of those perfect, you know, series of events to tear some stuff up, right? And so he slams on the brakes, and I'm looking at the cars that are about to hit us. Like, why are we going when there's cars right there? And then I hit him. So Corvette took it pretty good. S13 did not. And I had just helped him rewrap that car like a couple weeks ago. Damn. Just awful. So anyway, so I've got all this damage, and so I'm talking to Daniel about the Fuel Fest thing, and I was like, hey, so I don't know if you guys would be interested. And I just elevator pitch him on the phone, just on the fly. Yeah. Like, this might land, this might not, but you never know if you don't try. Like, I'm just shamelessly elevator pitching this new sales rep, right? And he's like,
sounds kind of cool.
He's like, look, I'm not gonna lie. He's like, you're a new distributor, and they kind of like to work with people they've been on board with, blah, blah, blah. He's like, it does sound cool. So I'm going to give you the marketing director's contact information. And if you told him what you just told me, you might have a shot. Yeah. But I'm not going to shut you down. I'm not going to say that. I'll just let you talk to him about it. I think it's, so but the fact that he was like, this is kind of cool. And just like, if you want it
in for you,
I'm going to let you take action on it. He's like, but I'm not going to, you know, he's like, y'all figure that out. Well, the marketing director turns out is a rally racer himself.
Sick.
And has a four-door, like at the time had a four-door GC8 and it's like all into it. But I don't know all this. All this is new relationships. So, and Daniel Balabanis is a car guy too. And so the more that I start learning, Michael Hahn's the marketing director at Steck USA. So, and as I start learning more about Steck, I start realizing there's a lot of like authentic car guys that are working within this company that like, it's not just a corporate job where they clock out and then they go home and do something else. Right. It's like all of their Instagram and all their everything is like car related content. And like one of the head of digital marketing has like one of the cleanest like red S13 like restorations. That's so sick. Like cleans out the windshield fluid reservoir and like does a whole new one in there, like every little freaking piece. Like it's a beautiful car. And then Casey's the does all this video content, and this dude's rolling around with like a teal E46 and like roll cage, and it's just like, all right, like these are my people, right? It's just crazy how it works. So anyway, so I get off track here, but
No, you're good.
So and he's like, hey, tell him what you just told me. You might have a shot. And I send this. I'm like, I don't even know. This is my first time doing this. I don't even know what to say. Or I'm just gonna try to be as professional as possible, and just elevator pitch a marketing director in an email and send some pictures and tell him what I'm thinking and explain my vision and just try to, how do I provide as much value for them as possible? Like, and make this cool. And
how long did it take for you to actually get that conversation happening with the manager?
Well, it was a little while. But
usually is.
well, it did take a little while. But I wasn't offended by it. I knew that I literally threw a Hail Mary with that. And I was literally at a place like, and I still am doing this today actually, where I was just like, well, if you never try, then you don't know. But at least if you try and you pitch it, it's either gonna work or it's not. But if it doesn't, then at least you know, hey, at least I tried to take action on something, and then you can move on. But if you never try, then that's gonna eat away at you. Like, should I have sent that email? Should I have done that? Should I have tried? Like, So, and I was like, I'm going for it. I sent him the pictures, sent him my idea, and was like, look, I'm about to do a wide body conversion. I can shoot video for you, like whatever. So I sent this whole thing about how I want to make a livery and the HGK cars. Didn't hear anything back for a while. And then, mind you, I've already put in like a notice that like I'm going to do my own thing, right? And so I'm like, all right, well, we tried. So I'm just like kind of moving on and just, like, all right, well, I got to fix this car for Fuel Fest and whatever.
Yeah.
And this is right after the wreck in Coda. So I'm like, all right, well, at least I tried, because I was about to rewrap it. And I'm like, well, let me try this before I do the rewrap. Because if they say yes, I'd love to do it this way. But if not, then maybe we'll throw some vinyl on it because it's cheaper and blah, blah, blah.
Of course.
So and then all of a sudden, like out of the blue, he calls me and is like, hey, this is so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, this is Michael Hahn with, Steck USA. And he's like, so we're going to send you over some material data sheets. And when you're working with this film, and I was like, oh, this is happening. I was like, oh, they actually like this idea. And that Dyno Forge carbon is not cheap. Like even the dealer cost is like, whoa. So like to do a full car in it is like ridiculous. And crazy. So I'm like, okay, well, here we go. Like, this is the start of something. And then they basically just took a risk and said, hey, you have full creative control, whatever you want to do. Like, we trust you. Like, I saw the previous car and your vision sounds awesome, and I know what you're talking about. And so they sent me the material, and they're just like, well, let us know. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, the fact that I get this product. And for them, it made sense because it's like, well, we don't have to hire a shop. We don't have to do anything crazy because you are the installer and the driver, versus if you sponsor a driver, then you got to find somebody to go do the work. And then
it's more worth the gamble for them.
So they're like, oh man, like this is like, yeah, we'll send you some.
Yeah.
And because it was that at the time, it was a unique, it's like, well, we're already there. We're going to have a booth. And then they were like, hey, let's, if you're doing ride-alongs, and, we'll put the film on the car. You can run our logo, and, we'll even do it as like an activation thing where like we can raffle off like some ride-alongs in the Steck car. And I was like, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Because we're, TMS, Fuel Fest, it's huge, and people walking around everywhere. Like, it's a madhouse. And so they sent me the roll, and all of a sudden it was like, dude, you have like 2 weeks to pull the old livery off, design a new one, and pull all the vinyl off. The car at the time was a no start. It had an electrical issue. The headlamp was the headlamp was blown up. We had to cut. We were cutting the holes in the hood for these vents that I had just bought. So we had to install the 945 garage wide body and make this
pushing it.
So it basically we
Keep in mind, he just said a minute ago, for a full car PPF usually takes about a week.
Yeah, and
and you're doing multi-layer too.
So basically, like, I sling this deal where I make some kind of agreement with, I forget what it was now, with my current employers at the time. I'm like, hey, like, I know I'm leaving, and XYZ, but I kind of need a spot to do this. And
Oh no.
yeah, so I pitched some business deal, and it was like, hey, like I'll run you guys' logo on the car, like in the livery, you know, as support for this. And you know, like if you guys are down, and then there was something else that needed to be done, and we had 2 full PPF wraps booked for that same time slot anyway. So there was like 2 full cars that needed to be finished. Like there was one I was working on currently, another one coming in that all needed to be done.
Yeah.
And so basically it was like wide body install, new livery, pull the old stuff off, do body work on the car, do the wrap, redo the vents, work with a designer to get a new livery designed around the forged PPF. And we had new wheels come on the way. Worked with a designer to sling the design together. And like luckily my buddy Corey Boydock, who's amazing friend, he was just like, he came to me as soon as I got the approval, and he was like, dude, whatever you need, like help with this, I am down. And I was
That's
like,
so cool.
all right, well, let's do it. And he's like, and I'm towing it just because I want to tow this thing behind my truck. So I was like, all right, cool. And so like we did it because this is a street car. Like I do Texas street legal. So like I'm not like a massive, you know, Pro-Am driver with a massive truck and trailer.
Yeah, but that
all
also shows like you don't need to be all that to start making deals in the industry like that as well. So just the fact of owning a business that's relative to the industry puts you in that position. So
for sure. So
if you're just working your 9 to 5, you know, grocery store clerk, whatever job, you know, that's never going to get you in that position.
And that was the thing too, was because the car was obviously like a demo car for me where I get to show off and promote my brand and all this other stuff. So luckily, you know, shout out Dynamic Auto Works in Houston for allowing me to do that and not stopping my endeavors. And they're like, yeah, sure. Like,
yeah, that's super cool.
And, you know, let me have some shop space, and then they were supportive of it. And then we hired a videographer. We shot video in there as the process was going down to kind of make like a cinematic transformation video, like for Steck at the time. And then, and then getting like the graphics even produced and printed to where you can even install them on top of the PPF.
That shit takes time.
It was a lot. And so I was working like, this was right around Easter. All I remember is like on Easter Sunday, like I was literally in the shop, like working on Easter Sunday, and my buddy Corey like brought me a plate like from his house, like just so I could have like Easter dinner in there. That's and cool. You know, it was cool. And so much was going on. It's so much a blur. Like the amount of money that I spent on, because I was working full time on those cars that we were wrapping there, because I still was like, hey, I'm gonna finish out this timeline, and they had jobs that they had sold, and I was like, absolutely, I will finish them, and we'll take care of that and make sure that it's, you know, done. And then I had to bring in like a buddy of mine, Brandon, and like pay him a contractor rate to help me like finish my own car. I mean, we're just working till like 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, like every night, trying to transform this thing in 2 weeks. And then I got down to like the last bit of this livery on the car, and there was an error in it, and I had actually thrown this piece away because of the print error, and it was like the last decal that needed to go on the car, and it was in the garbage can, and it was literally we were packing up the car to go on the trailer. Like we had decided we were going to leave the shop at like 3 a.m. to be at Texas Motor Speedway by said time to load in and be there on time. And I had to dig this piece out of the garbage can and like clean the debris out of it and hit it with a heat gun and then like lay it down and then like put my logo back there to hide where the graphic was distorted. And I was like, the amount of emotions just up and down and left from like, oh my God, this is happening. Like it's a sponsorship and just all of that in between. And then we finished it, and then we put it on the trailer, wide body, vents in the hood, brand new wheels, new livery, full dyno forge PPF on it, like this wine red color. And then, you know, I got my dad's number, like 25, like in the livery because his car, like his race car when he did round track was red. And his number was 25. So my cars will always have red and 25 on them.
Cool.
Somewhere to keep that alive for him. And so anyway, so we've got the car and we put it up on the trailer, and like my girlfriend comes and picks me up, and I'm like, I think this was like the second maybe all-nighter that we had pulled, like just trying to finish everything on this car in that short amount of time, on top of not let their customers down as well. And when it finally pulled out on the trailer and I'm looking at my car from the outside, I'm like, that has no business being my car. Like, that is way too...
That's the same thing I said when I got my livery done on the car for like the first time. Like a true livery with everything on it. Oh, dude. Doesn't feel real.
It's the best feeling in the world. Like when you finally see like a vision that seems like it's a daydream. And then if you've wanted to do it for so long, or wanted to be a part of drifting and just can't figure out how to make it work because of whatever's going on, and then to see this thing become reality. And it's like, this car exists because of, this version of this car exists because of me, and it was in here, now it's out here. It's a feeling you can't really describe. And we pulled in, and I remember like when we got there, because Steck was just totally like believing in me, and I was coordinating with Michael and was trying not to drive him nuts with like all of the ups and downs and lefts and rights that we were having. And I was like, man, this is looking sketchy. Like, we were like, does the design work? Does it this? And what about the logo placement and all this? Yeah. And so finally, like, we got it work, but they hadn't seen final proof of concept. And so I just rolled up on them, and they're like, are you here? I'm like, yeah, we're here. Like, no sleep, finish this thing in the last minute, save this piece. God. And we pulled up, and their reception of the car was like,
astonished.
Yeah, sure, because even them, they were like, this is like, we've never seen kind of this like go down with this product. Like, it's cool, but like their marketing pictures at the time, I think, were just like a Tesla Model 3, and the whole car was wrapped in it. The photos were great, and like, it definitely serves a purpose where you get the idea of it. But when you see it it was just a plain Model 3, like a stock Model 3. So to see a whole car wrapped in that material, and it's like,
with the logo all up in your face,
with
and
logos and white wheels and drift spec, and and it's, we just went all in on this thing.
Super fucking cool for them.
It was cool for them, and I was just so grateful that they thought it was so freaking cool and even liked it. And was like, because I just went all in and was like, they trusted me, and I got to do that for them, and then they're like freaking loving it. Like, dude, this looks way cooler than what we were even picturing in our head. Like, this is nuts. And that was so incredibly like flattered and blown away that I had the opportunity to do that. And we had a successful event, and it was great. The other thing that was really cool about that is Texas Motor Speedway was where I initially got like this conviction in me to be like, I'm going to do this. And it was at an XDC drift event like years ago. Yeah. And it was George Marstanovich's FC, because I was an FC guy at the time. Okay. And I saw him there. And that was because I was an FC guy, and he had, his car, and I was like, I actually want to do this. Like, I want to do like competitive drifting. I don't know how, but I'm going to figure out how to do this. And that was years ago.
You saw that?
Yeah, nice little bobble for the NOS there.
Oh, yeah.
It's all good. Zegnova shirt.
NOS, sponsor me. I'm kidding. I'm not that much of a chotch.
It's no problem. And then we got, like, the day that I got to show that car off was my dad's birthday. So, like, in kind of like remembrance to him, it was like, this is the track where I got the dream. And then to actually do it all on my dad's birthday, like with the red, like,
it's cool that like you put meaning into a lot of stuff.
I do. I'm a cheese ball, man.
Do stuff just to do it. I dig that. That's really cool. So they still support you like through Texas Street League and everything, right?
Yeah, they do. The where that evolved to, and this is where, like, I hope I'm not going on a huge rant here, but this is, I mean, they well, the way that landed is it just kept going. Yeah. And later,
one idea sparks another, and another sparks another.
So later they reached out and they're like, hey, do you ever travel for drifting? And I'm like, well, yeah, we've done a couple. Like we went to, like we did like Grid Life, Colorado.
Sick.
And that was like the early version of the car, like when I first got it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we do that. And then like we went to Mid Pond at Alabama, like to try that out. And I was like, yes, we do. It just, just depends on the kind of event or whatever. And they're like, you want to do some more Fuel Fest? And I was like, I would love to if I can swing it. Just what do you guys have in mind? And they're like, well, we'd love to pay you to bring the car and drift Fuel Fest. So here's a list of a few. Pick them. Mm-hmm. So next thing I know, we're going to Irwindale's Fuel Fest with
that's crazy
with this car, and then New Jersey Motorsports Park.
Yeah.
So I like just from that one, it would be cool, like holding the PPF and going like, well, what would happen? Led to all this, right? And so that was a whole nother thing because I basically drove to California with like this. It was crazy the way it ended up, but the only truck that we could get was like an F-150. So I used an F-150 to trailer this thing from Houston to California. And I'm like no support, like by myself. Like I don't have a friend going with me, like my own tools, my own car, driving all the way across. It was like 24 hours one way to Irwindale for a 1-day Fuel Fest. But I mean, next thing you know, like this goes from like street car to like getting to lead a tandem train with like Matt Field and Animal Style behind you.
Fucking nutty.
And like those clips are like some of the most surreal clips to me. And then like, like next thing you know, like you're sitting in grid with, Matt Field and his C6, it's the demo version of his C6, but I mean,
still
it's Matt Field, like he is very responsible for helping build that C6 community. Right. Yeah. And so he's looking at the car through the side and he's like, dude, your car's sick. And I'm just like, it was a moment, and then to get to drive and like, I'm having this moment where I'm like, dude, if I like mess these laps up and I've got Animal Style and Matt Field behind me, then I'm the one that just like ruined these laps. So you want to talk about pressure. People say leading's easy, but
no,
that's a lot of pressure.
When you're doing that, no.
it's a lot of pressure, especially if there's a train stacked up behind you or like and cool stuff. It's like, hey man, like we trust you, like throw down. So
it's putting a lot of faith in you.
Yeah, and I was feeling it, but we got some amazing footage and some amazing clips, and I was just like, it was like dream come true for me. And then New Jersey Motorsports Park, beautiful facility, beautiful track, and then just it's like I can't believe like that sponsors are sending me over here, but it was uniquely aligned with what they had going on because there was a value to like, hey, like we're already here at these events. And we're so showing off this car with the product in here. So it was just finding a unique way to build value for them.
Yeah. So how have they, I guess, adapted to the whole competition aspect of it? So it started off as like Fuel Fest and like fun events, big expectation. How does it incorporate into the competition world now versus that?
So
especially Texas Street League, because that's like all fairly stock cars and stuff. Like they're all, I'm sure yours looks way more wild than a lot of those cars out there.
I don't want to sound like self-serving, but like I do think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And people, it makes me struggle with imposter syndrome, to be honest, because I feel like we created a car that has an image that maybe gives off like pro-am look.
Yeah.
And then to be in a street legal series, like this car still has AC and the windows go up and down.
Such a flex.
So it's, and then
love
like,
to have AC in my car.
Right. So, I mean, it's nice. Like, don't get me wrong. And what's really funny is like when we take it to dates and stuff, like take it out to dinner and people are like, what is going on with this?
People's brains start rotting.
Because the whole thing screams race car, but like, it's like, well, the jig is up, man. Like it's per street legal rules, but I mean, the car still throws down for what it is, and honestly, that street legal mindset is what's allowed me to get so much seat time in that car, is adhering to those kind of rules that Aaron Losey has laid out.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, like, it's not necessarily to make things super competitive. It's to make the cars reliable. So when you have a reliable car that can, like, if that car was a monster, like some monster machine, maintaining those cars and like going to events like Fuel Fest requires so much extra labor and wrench time and people to maintain these full-blown Pro-Am machines. But like, I didn't take a wrench to that car at any of those Fuel Fest, like not once.
That's crazy.
Because it's overkill in the cooling department, like on keeping everything cool. And then the engine, like, that's a stock LS2 with factory exhaust manifolds, like per the Texas street legal rules. And that thing has been all over the place, and like, it's unreal. I can't believe it. Like, I need to knock on wood somewhere before I have like a problem. And that's not because I'm some masterful car builder, but I think there's something to be said about, there is an opening for, it's one of the things I would hope people pick up from this, is street legal doesn't, like, a street legal rule and street legal drifting doesn't have to be considered small, and it doesn't have to be considered amateur. There's some absolute rippers in that street legal series, and so there's some people that have a Pro-Am car and a street legal car, and they flip flop, and like,
I love street legal for what it is.
I think it's gnarly. Yeah. And the competitions, like, some of these drivers, like, when you watch some of these guys, like, they're fun runs at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You'll see 5 and 6 cars stacked up door to door like an Assetto Corsa lobby.
Yeah.
Like this, like, running full tilt at the end of the day. Like, I don't care what happens. But, like, we get jaded on it and we're thinking, like, oh, street legal. But there's, in my opinion, it's kind of like Pro-Am level talent in a more sustainable car.
Right.
Because they can rip. And like Jake Wise, for example.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, came in and like wrecks shop on street legal with the Z, and then builds that nasty S14. And so that street legal series, like, there's people pushing hard. And that grid is not short of talent. Yeah. Like, at all.
It's arguably the best way to run any type of grassroots competition. I think it gives a better balance to the overall competition versus, say, like a 245 tire rule or something like that. You know, just the average stuff people will do to keep the competition the same, even if you do have higher horsepower versus lower horsepower. So, like, a lot of the guys that we'll just say don't run Texas street legal or haven't even been anywhere near it will complain about Corvettes and how Corvettes are so naturally good straight out of the box. So it's like cheating when it comes to Texas street legal. So what is your opinion on that? Because I personally don't believe that. You see Luke Fink, like, chase down 900 horsepower cars in a bone stock C6 and, you know.
So my opinion, like, there is a part of Texas street legal rules that I can't run a tire wider than a 265, and it has to be a 300 tread wear tire. So that's the other part, which is kind of interesting, and we spent a lot of time talking about this amongst friends and drivers. So, like, Valino has a pretty big presence out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the grid is running Valino. So I was
running Valinos last year.
So those 08C Pergias are a 300 tread wear tire.
Yeah.
Labeled. But they have more grip than tires that have a 200 tread wear rating.
It is true.
And that's without saying anything or, you know, making another tire look bad. Or saying anything negative. It's just that it's like, it's gotten so tight that if you don't have something of the equivalent, whatever the brand is, but if you don't have that level of performance on a 300 tread wear tire, like, you're probably gonna get, like, walked. And thinking that power is everything. There's, like, DE powered Zs running 08C Pergias.
Yeah. In,
like, full kill mode that can, like, catch up to my vet in drift from, like, the alignment.
Zs are incredible for how much, like, grip they can actually handle. It's pretty wild.
It's wild. Like the guy that just like dominated street legals, Diego, the green Frog Z, like it's probably famous at this point. The guy's a ripper, and he just gets seat time. And that's really what Aaron Losey had envisioned with the street legal series, was that sort of scenario happening. And
keep it moving.
Yeah, and to keep
things flowing.
Yeah, and then to keep sorry, did I say something wrong?
Oh, no. I was saying, no, it's just so they can keep things moving and keep it flowing well.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
I was like, oh, where did he get mixed up there? I was like, oh, shit, wait, yeah, I did say,
my bad.
Keep it flowing.
My bad. Yeah, that Frog car that he has is, like, he's beaten me multiple times. And honestly, like I'm third, like I got third. This was my first official full season to do every single event.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then like I street drove there for 6 out of 7 of the rounds. And 2 of them were at MSR, so they were like an hour away, like one way and then back. The police academy I live relatively close to, so it makes things easy. Like I live like 20 minutes from the police academy. So street driving there, street drive home. So I'm kind of like taking that drift week theory and running with it. But as far as like the tire rules and all that stuff go, like with the competitiveness side, the cars that are the most balanced are actually the ones that are kicking ass. So making a Corvette, because the police academy is kind of slick, so you end up kind of dialing in a full kill mode setup to grip out there, or at least like some of my friends do. And I've been kind of, I'll steal a page from here, try a little bit here. But that hunt for grip goes up, and everybody's looking for it, even on the slick track. What's funny though is the hard part is taking a Corvette that comes with way wider tires than that from factory, and then having, a cage in it at that, and then we got the glass and we got the cage and the AC still in it, which I think I could remove per rules, but. Trying to manage a Corvette on a 265 and not just blow the tires off it's trickier than you would think, because it's a heat management thing. So like,
oh, okay.
So I have like, man, like I want to tandem with these Z's, and they get out there and just stay out on track and just drive. And I'm like, all right, we just did 2 laps. I just did a lap. I got to do 2 cool down laps, and it's not for my car overheating. It's the tires, because Corvettes have like a long rear gear. So second gear goes like to the moon. So I'm shifting once, and so I can go first and then second, and it's like the longest second gear you've ever had. So that's a 1-2 shift, and then you're in second for the whole course. Yeah.
I have a 3.5 diff in my car, so with the 5-speed and the RB.
I gotcha.
Dude, the second gear is ungodly long.
Really? Does it work for you at all?
No, I hate it. If I'm on like a kart track, it works great. Like the car never even makes full boost and stuff, and it just rips.
Nice.
The way it is. But if I'm on a big track like Polecat 30 minutes away, then it has no balls at all on that track. Wow. It won't even stay in third gear. It just bogs.
Wow. That's nuts. Yeah. I do know that some of the Zs are trying to simulate that, and some of them have succeeded, where they've got a mildly modded motor, like I guess like if you start with an HR, then you're already ahead of the curve, like the HR DE.
Yeah. I started with a DE, but now it's not even DE or anything. It's RB, so it's like completely different setup.
So some of the Zs have kind of taken on that approach that I've been hearing and learning, and where they're aiming for that 1-2 and that's it, so that they don't have an awkward shift. Yeah. And they get the gearing with the CD09 transmission, because it's a 6-speed, and so they've created this power band in an area for that competition series where the car just works. And that's, I guess, another long-winded answer, but those cars that can be driven at like 10/10, like 100% of the time. Yeah. You're able to, like, I can push this thing as like at the maximum of this, and I don't have to worry about, am I overdriving the tire?
Right.
So and this is arguably like a defect in my skill set, like, right? So like, I know where some of my weak parts are in my technique. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, okay, like if I have a car like a Corvette and I'm doing street legal and, you know, we're on a good tire and a you know, basically Wise Fab Pro front angle kit, in theory, it's like we should be dominating. So that's why like I'm kind of being like real with myself and saying like, hey, if you're not crushing it here, you need to stay right here until you're like dominant, because you're going to learn so much.
That's a good mindset to have,
Like,
yeah. Instead of just trying to climb as fast as possible.
I absolutely love to climb, and
Right.
I'm open to seeing how far can we go, how far can we take it. But for me, I was like, I'm going to focus on street legal this year. And because I knew the talent was good, because we would tandem with him at like Randall's like IAS days, like, because it's another he does the events there as well. So it's another huge benefit is getting to have like fun days at a home course that's a staple in the series that you're running. So fun days become test days. So you get to test so much. But the Z's are they're so well balanced because they're able to be driven so hard by these drivers that have so much seat time in them because the cars are reliable. And now they've got a grippy tire. And so they're so comfortable being like this all the time.
Yeah.
That if you get up, like I catch myself, like it's very easy for me to oversend that tire. Or if I'm going to come in with a lot of speed, well, now we've got, truthfully, we got a lot of car, like weight-wise, coming in on a 265, which is by the size of a Corvette, way tinier than what comes on them like from factory.
Yeah.
And trying to go full send and asking a lot of a 265 to hold us on the road and stop that momentum and get that suspension to work. And it's I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, oh, you're nuts, but the factor there is the police academy surface. It's not like a oval track asphalt surface like TMS. Like
it's all flat, isn't it?
Well, the TMS asphalt, for example.
Yeah.
We were airing our tires up like to ungodly PSIs to even make it through that, because they shortened the run up a little bit. And like, so like when we did LS Fest, right? Like I felt like I brought a knife to a gunfight. Like, oh my God. And it was so funny because like we do the whole thing and like we're practicing before qualifying, and then Pat Gooden.
Yeah.
So Pat Gooden comes in the driver's meeting and Nick Swan's like talking to us, and Pat comes in and is like, every single one of y'all mofos' cars is too hooked up. Y'all look like, and it was true, because you come in with like, I'm going to go full kill mode. He's like, if y'all will loosen your cars up, it'll look smoother. And I mean, so there's something to be said about like, when you hear about the way people drive on certain parts of the area and on what, like certain parts of the US per se,
right,
and on what tire, take into account what kind of surface they're driving on, because something that works on one surface might not work over here.
Absolutely.
So I think people
that's a big problem I see with like the tire review group on Facebook.
Yes.
Is I will see some tires that like I've never in my life had a problem out of, no matter what surface I've been on. And then some dude from fucking out west or something, like the one place that I haven't driven at, and they're like getting destroyed, delammed, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, that is crazy how much, not only surface, but climate to surface ratio, it really plays arguably the biggest part on how long of a life or grip level that your tire is going to have.
Yeah.
So I
for know. Sure. That's a complex answer, and I hope it's not. I'm trying to do my best with answering like linearly, but like when you ask me these questions, I have so many different thoughts on the same topic, and I don't want to like lose your audience or like derail you, but like it all goes hand in hand with like the competitiveness and like street legal and all of that, of like what makes a competitive car in street legal. And there's monster drivers for sure. Like, and I know this, like I know for a fact there's people out there that could jump in my car, like somebody like Chelsea Denofa or somebody the equivalent, and jump in my car and is gonna make that car shine in a way that I'm not there yet, right? And it's gonna be like, okay, well, see, that's what you need to do. But I also know that, you know, that's like, I know where the weaknesses are. But I mean, watching tires wear even differently, like if you have a different kind of driving style, like if you're left foot brake like dominant, if you're using a lot of e-brake, and just like you'll see tires respond to certain like maneuvers in different ways. Like certain tires will chunk from like e-brake like work way worse than others. And so it's really there's a lot that goes into like making a tire work. But I'll tell you, like from my Corvette, I can't stay out on track doing continuous laps the way these Z's can. So it'll generate heat like really fast. And I had to get to a point where I had like a routine that I didn't deviate from, where it was like, okay, in comp, this is my starting PSI. And I had to force myself, rookie mistake in my part. And honestly, I'm kind of shocked that more people don't do this, but I had to start making myself do like a burnout before each run, like we would do at LS Fest. And because I was notorious for you getting this groove when you're driving and having fun, and you get in this groove of the way your car holds, and then come comp and you're like, all right, I'm up. Well, your tires aren't even warm, and you just launched a full send lap. Like, yeah, the car's got wash issues, and you just yeeted yourself off the track and pissed that whole battle away because your tires aren't even hot. Yep. So I started going like, here's my starting PSI. Do a burnout first, like maybe a little longer than you would think. And even if people clown on you and go, oh, look, he's trying to be pro or whatever, I'm like, I'm getting my grip. Like, because I'm not gonna throw this away by trying to full send. Yeah. You know, on a cold tire that's not even hot. And that's a huge impact. And then like I would check like, all right, well, let's see, like I just did a lead, I just did a chase. And if we advance, then I'm checking my PSI. Like how much did we gain in PSI off of those 2 laps? And just watching that and keeping an eye on things like that. Because I can feel.
Those little details are, it's funny how like, even in the content world or like any business, especially, consistency is one of the most important things. So if you can make everything as consistent as possible throughout every single run, why wouldn't you? Yeah. Would you want to be a stick in the mud or take the chance of losing just because you didn't want to take the time or it wasn't cool?
For sure.
You know, whatever.
No, for sure. I played for a baseball team when I was younger, and they would literally push, and that's I think probably where I got it from. Actually, they would push the concept of like the amount of games that are lost on errors, not because the team was better than you. Yeah. The amount of games that are won and lost.
Me too. I played baseball growing up, so
off of errors, and the coaches drilled that, and we just had like these behaviors like if somebody's throwing to first, you back up first base because he might miss that throw. Should he miss the throw? No, but what if he does? Yeah. Somebody better be there to pick that ball up so we don't like it was just things like that. So it kind of got that competitiveness.
Baseball is a very plan B sport.
Yeah, and cover your butt. So I started trying to, I guess maybe where I got some of those little habits in, and even like we had a rain event, and like we got to the thing where it was like I had a rag nearby. And I was wiping the bottom of my shoes off because I had driven in that sit where like I was like wiping the bottoms of my shoes off at all times because you won't think about it, like you're just gonna get in the car. But if your foot slides off the pedal at the wrong time, that like there's the timing, there's the transition, there's the e-brake pull that you missed something, and it's just all those kind of little things, you know, that I think I probably picked up from there. But
it's cool that you pay attention to those details. Those little details will get you ahead, and I see it. It shows itself, so that's good. Well, as far as like I know we've talked a lot about just like the amount of seat time and stuff that we get, especially in you know you and street legal. Do you use sim at all to gain any seat time or anything? How come? What is your reasoning for not jumping into that world yet?
So, Honestly, my friends have been harping on me.
That's why there's one in there. I did not care to have a sim that much.
Yeah, so I want to do it because I see the value in that tool, absolutely. But the simple answer is like some of like these sim setups, because I've played on a few before, and there's a few of them that I've just had experiences with where I'm like, this does not feel like real life.
Yeah.
Like the wheel does not spin back in your hands the way that it should. The line of sight is weird. Like I can't. So, but I've also now seen my friends build some setups that are phenomenal and they're pricey. And for me, I'm kind of like, okay, I know it's an investment, but like I'm not necessarily like rolling in it, right? So if I'm thinking like, let's just say like the cost of, a $5,000 simulator setup, which that's easy to hit on these nice sim
That's
setup.
a budget setup.
Right.
Like if you're including the cost of the
Right.
computer, the PC and everything,
Yeah.
100%.
So if I'm looking at my year, do you think I'm going to spend $5,000 on tires, or do you think I'm going to spend $5,000 on
That was my dilemma,
on my
dude.
sim setup? And that's where I've been. But arguably,
You're going to get peer pressured enough to where you're going to be like, all right, fuck it. I'll just get the damn Logitech. I'm telling you, dude,
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened to me. And at first it was just sitting on this desk attached to the PC that was down there. And I was like, for one, now that I'm like starting to understand how the sim operates and how delayed it is and all that nonsense, I need myself to sit still for one. So like I'm in a chair that just keeps scooting back every time I clutch kick. So, and then my pedals were flying all over the place because they're not mounted to anything. Shifter keeps coming off because it's not bolted down. It's just clamped. Everything. I was like, now that I'm finally understanding it, I've got to at least make my own rig. So that's essentially what I did, was a wood rig. But hopefully we can upgrade it eventually.
That's a whole nother thing too.
And you're welcome to try it after this too,
right.
if you want, and just see it if it's something that you might be interested in. Because I'm telling you, I was the same way. I hated them because they did not seem real. I started in the car, just like I assumed you did. So,
that's a long story too,
dude.
That's a long story.
Yeah.
Well, you need a whole nother episode for me to get, because I've already got these long-winded episodes. But like my buddy Kevin's simulator, this dude. Man, maybe I'll have to send you a picture and you can plug it as I'm talking about this. And he was like, yeah, pump my sim setup. But this dude because he drifts a C7. So Kevin Gorky and the Renspec team in Houston are like a major reason why I can even do what I do. Because I have so much support from them and from the mechanic side and the knowledge. And we've been friends for a long time. I would not have like a lot of what I have experience-wise if it wasn't for them.
That's cool.
For sure, I would be doing him a disservice if I didn't plug him on that one. His sim setup is like he cut the side of a salvage C7. Like the whole side of the C7 is right here, and he has the seat, and he has a Corvette dash, and the e-brake is coming up through the cup holder, like the way the street car would. And he's got like
that's what I really.
He's got a half of a Corvette sitting in his living room, and's got D&D in the C7, and then it has D&D on the sim too. And it's just like, dude, oh my god. And they clock hours, and so that's really why the FOMO that I have of all of these experiences that they're having, getting lap after lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, and then they're like, oh, this pro guy was in the lobby driving with us too, and you missed it. And I'm
when you get to sit down with Reese Marin for 2 hours to have a conversation, and he brings up how many of his kids come in from never having a single lick of seat time in a real car, but they've had 500,000 hours of that's probably exaggerated as hell.
Yeah,
but that many seat time hours on a sim, and first lap out, they just get it. You feel so like, even though I would like consider how many years, like whatever, 5 years or so that I've been in the sport, like actually in it. And I still feel like there's a dude that walked in a month ago and he's 10 times better than I am in a real car now, just because he spent 3 years on a sim. And it makes you really feel little.
I'll tell you, I could definitely see the appeal of it. I think for me, I get a little motion sickness with the goggles.
Oh, I
too.
won't. Yeah, I won't do VR.
I got to get used to that. I don't know how they sit there for hours with those goggles. And
I'll
have
try
any
other
sort of-
people's sim with
Yeah.
the VR for about 2 minutes.
So I can tell
I'm done.
I can tell their stuff is dialed, but I'm not dialed. But when you throw the VR goggles on, and then you're spinning out left and right, I can only last a couple minutes where I'm like, dude, like I'm never gonna grasp
man.
your sim because I'm getting sick with that. So I think if I had a custom tailored setup that was like where I could tailor it to where I was most comfortable, where I could sit down and work it for a while, and then maybe work my way into VR, where I could just get adjusted to the physics, because I absolutely want one. I do, like I pick on the sim drifters a little bit in this department, because if I get a sim, I have full intentions of trying to recreate my real car so that I can actually simulate, pushing that car harder. So like I kind of tease them a little bit, like playfully but constructively, like, hey, like make sure you ain't spending all your time driving these like $1 million cars, that are like FD level. Like make sure you're actually like training something that's like equivalent to what you're driving in real life. I feel like if you don't do that, you're kind of missing the mark a little bit.
I really want to get someone to make my car on the sim.
Yeah.
But obviously I got a little bit more quirks to work out with the actual car to even have the correct comparison. So I've just been using the Gravy Garage cars. I think the Joel, however the fuck you say it, that car is the one that is the most resembled to mine. Mm-hmm. If not that one, maybe like the JZX 100 is like a lazier version of that. Mm-hmm. But those are the two that I try and stick with the most. If I go online to a server and the car's not available, like because they'll be grayed out to where you can't use them or whatever, I'll just go to a different server. Because like I don't have the interest in using like an 8086 that drives like a Miata it has nothing to do with the way my car feels.
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
Like, I don't know.
That's kind of where I'm at, is like figuring out like how to help it move what's important to me at this point in my life forward. But I'll tell you, like, where that would have come immensely, in handy was like the amount of like more seat time and more practice laps that we could have gotten, like at Texas Motor Speedway, for example. Having the ability to just practice that layout again and again and again and again. That would have been
after Polecat, dude. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
I need some type of reference before I go to these tracks, because I'm so left behind everyone else. Because they all show up and they're like, you ready for this turn or whatever because of the sim. And I'm like, fuck all of you.
Showing up to those big Pro-Am events, I absolutely love that experience. And like it is an amazing experience. And I absolutely like want to do more and plan to do more. For me as well, it's kind of like, you don't want to show up trying to learn the track and getting track data. It's almost like you're a boxer showing up for fight night.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to start the training camp when fight night's tonight. Like, you're here to fight.
Yeah, especially when you grow up in sports and, like, you're used to watching film.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah. Like, you feel like you're off. Like, oh, there's something I'm missing here.
Yeah. So, when you show up to, like, LS Fest, I mean, they got hitters, like...
Dude, yeah.
And then, to plug Jake Wise again, like, he crushed it.
We love Jake
here, at Texas. And then to circle back to the sim thing, like my buddy, I mentioned him earlier, Brandon Surrett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. He's Sim Cave Media on Instagram, by the way. That dude.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen him before.
He's got hours on that. Like, he's been doing, I don't even know how many years now. And that dude is like a sim whiz. And Kevin drives with him a lot. And he brought his Miata out, and this was a few years ago, and he's still been driving and clocking hours. Well, he brought this like street level Miata out to Police Academy. And there was people that could not do this track, and he comes clocking through this, like, in this Miata that's not turbo, by the way. Like, this is a NA Miata, and you watch him come in and's like left foot braking through the sweeper to keep a Miata in drift through the whole sweeper, and's like nailing it, and's way smoother than some of the other guys. And you're like, that was from the sim.
Yeah.
And you can see that. So like I know the value in it. I'm trying to figure out like where am I gonna pull the
I'm
trigger.
seeing some of these guys in these fucking 180 horsepower cars doing these, I mean, simultaneous perfect transitions and stuff. And I'm like, you learned that in the sim. There's no other way that you've gotten that much seat time. Like the progression time is just incredible.
Yeah,
I will never knock the sim anymore.
It's an amazing tool for sure, and you can tell the difference. And like Kevin's got a lot of time on there, and those sim guys, I mean, they crush it. I think if you don't have a sim, that it's been a little interesting for me because like I'll because I don't have a simulator, even on like the fun days, I kind of put an extra level of pressure on myself. So to add some validation to the simulator thing is I'm kind of trying to make my car in real life so I can have that simulator experience. So that every lap you hit, because I don't have a sim, so by the time you pay for tires, getting the car there, your entry fee, and you look at all of these days you pay for, well, for me, I'm like, I don't want to just be out in the back like grilling burgers and talking the whole time. Like I'm trying to, every lap that I hit, I'm trying to learn something. Like I don't like just burning tire to burn tire. You know, it's fun, but I'm hoping to gain something new, like from every lap. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said about also like building your car around a tire and sticking with it. Because if you're changing tires every event, you learn a little bit about the tires and stuff, and like I get it, but like a car will drive like on a like
it's that consistency.
Yes, so that way you can have that kind of simulator experience in real life because that variable that's underneath you doesn't change. So you know that, all right, I've got this much grip under me. So now we're going to play with, clicks in the coilovers. Are we going to pull a bar? Are we not? Are we going to make the alignment more aggressive? But people are changing so much stuff at once that like they don't even understand like what they're feeling when they change something.
Simple change at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like, we've all done it, but like, when you show up with those different wheels, that's like, oh, I got these drift spares.
Well, yeah. No, I know what you're talking
and
about.
then like maybe they're a little bit skinnier, and maybe like maybe they're so now, and then like, oh, I got these drift spares, and like, well, maybe that tire profile is maybe you're running a fatter tire or a skinnier tire. The idea of like if you have car, like you can literally change the put your drift spares on it, and if you like look at how much detail goes into corner balance on a car, well, if your car does this now because of just changing to your drift spares that are now taller,
the whole weight transfer,
so
off. And
I think even as a newbie, if you commit to building your driving growth around a certain level of tire, at least for a while, and learning how to set your suspension
and I say
up
that from
around
the jump
that.
too. Like not even like a lot of people will just go and get scrubs from their job or something if they work at a tire shop and like just get the cheapest things that they can for tire situations. I'm like, dude, I promise you, spend the extra couple bucks up front and you will have a way better tire to drive on and like learn on. You're getting these rock hard tires that are, for one, not even consistent throughout one lap. Yeah. So they're just going to continue to change, chunk up, and the surface is going to feel so different. So just make the jump, and you'll get more seat time anyways because they're going to last longer.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick on anybody or make anybody feel alienated about being able to afford a certain tire or driving what they drive because you want people to stick with it.
But ultimately you're going to spend more money doing that.
That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, and that what I'm saying is more so like if somebody's serious about, hey, I want to make progress. Like if you were going to the gym to work out and you're like, I want to get in shape. Well, if you train efficiently and you eat good, maybe it only takes you 4 months to make that transformation instead of a year and a half because you're doing certain things, so every time you drive an event and you buy those tires, you're gaining more from each event if you kind of set yourself up to have a control base to operate out of.
Right.
So it's like I run this tire, I run this suspension setup. So now I've got, that's why I think that like the building around the tire thing is like for a competitive standpoint, like what it takes to make a tire work, like across brands per se. Mm-hmm. I like the tire, like a Pergia per se. Like I can run a sway bar connected, higher PSI, and a few clicks in the rear dampening. So the suspension is in theory, like it's looser, right? But it's, to me, it's tighter. It's more predictable because there's available grip still to be had in theory, right? Yep. Well, if you have a great tire under you, the tire's doing a lot of the work. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the circumvention here. Like, and Chelsea talked about this in one of like his seminars that we were there, like that I went and sat through. Mm-hmm. Chelsea didn't know, by the way, obviously.
I figured.
That guy.
Can't get away from him nowadays.
Yeah,
he's all over the BC training facility and all of that stuff.
Josiah said something similar in one of his Drift Masters blogs, and they were talking about the tire is so good that we've loosened up the car to make the chassis more predictable. Mm-hmm. And in a competition like Street Legal per se, you're driving against such a wide variety of cars. So if you have a full kill mode setup and somebody's moving a little bit slower than you, or has or is doing something that's like not in that same realm of operation as yours, your car is now prone to bobble, and you'll piss the battle away because you're used to tandeming with somebody that runs a kill mode setup like you, and they're fast and they're on it here. Well, all of a sudden you're making adjustments that if you don't have a car that's competitive in a broad spectrum, and then you don't have the seat time behind it to know what your car does in that situation, it's incredibly easy to just hang yourself. Mm-hmm. And I hung myself in one of the rounds, like right out of the gate. I was on a different tire that I was like, oh, this is my demo tire. Like, it's cheap and I'm going to this and that. And you jump in with this kind of confidence that you normally have with the other one. I slung myself right off the track. Yeah. And like, oh, I was so embarrassed. And then I stayed back the next day because we had 2 days. And I was like, I'm going to run on these tires like what I should have driven on. Yeah. And it was like a totally different machine. And then I came back the next round, and that was when like we did way better. So it was like, is it worth it in a certain sense? Like, oh, I'm saving a buck. But if you have to create this absurd level of alignment to make that compound work, and you're just chewing through tires at a rate that's so much higher, it's like, well, are we really saving
Everything
money?
about that setup is not meant to operate in that way.
Correct. I kind of favor more of a balanced setup to be more predictable. Yeah. And go from there. I feel like if you're comfy and the car's predictable, then you're competitive. But true. If you're just chewing through cheaper tires, are you really getting your money's worth, or are you just eating through cheaper tires? So make sure you've got something good to build your driving style around. And I feel like people would progress a lot faster just from that alone by not jumping. Because especially if you go to different tracks, you don't really have track data. You have tire and track data. So if you bring a different tire to that track next time,
everything's all jumbled at that point.
You're almost having to re-engineer the whole setup every time. And I know there's a lot of people listening to me right now going, well, yeah, but like the pros are hearing me say that, and they're like, well, of course, like you should know that, but just
you'd be surprised how many people don't.
And that was kind of me, and I didn't realize how drastic some of them were, like how much of a difference there actually is. Yeah. And then you start looking back and thinking about it, and you're like, oh, that's why the car did that here. Oh, that's why I was doing it. And it almost messes with your head if you don't really put a lot of thought into it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's too much, but
no, that's perfect. That was really all I had on that. I was gonna ask you if you had driven the new compression canyon on the sim, because I know we jumped from sim to tires, but have you? I know you don't have one, but have you driven it yet?
No, I've seen the Instagram videos where they show the shock towers and the track layout.
Detail is crazy. If you haven't driven, I won't ruin the surprise for you. But the first like 15 minutes of me being in it, I went and like just drove around at like 5 miles an hour, just looking at shit.
It looks like
so
something.
Cool.
It definitely looks like something visual. like a visual spectacle that I'm like, oh man, I want to check that out.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool.
And jumping kind of back on the tire thing, speaking of a lot of like beneficial ways to get ahead in competition, do you use race fuel at all?
Mm-mm.
So you haven't even tapped into that whole side of things.
We really haven't. I think the race fuel thing would, if I were to do race fuel, for me, I would be hunting, and this is in my particular series and what I'm experiencing from Texas Street Legal. I would be hunting for like a reliability aspect, like to make sure that I don't grenade a motor from beating the hell out of it.
Right.
I almost think that I don't think more power is actually going to help my case.
I wouldn't even think it for more power at all.
Yeah, and what I'm experiencing in street legal. I think I could, and it'd be interesting to try.
The reason I bring it up is just as for the Renegade that I run, even last year, I was just running their HR 93, which is their 93 pump gas equivalent, essentially. And I made no changes to the car. We were doing a data log. And then came back. I was trying to get the car on E, so I was just doing data log after data log until I could get the tank empty. Then I went back and threw a bunch of gallons of Renegade in it. And I saw almost an 10 degree difference.
That's
just
awesome.
Cruising around doing data logs. So it's pretty incredible what like actual race fuel can do on the beneficial side of not horsepower, just everything else revolving around the car, the way it explodes inside the engine.
No, for sure.
And the way it burns is just essentially better. And that's not even just Renegade, like just all race fuels essentially. But I would look into that if you are trying, because I know you mentioned temps are a big issue. Every Corvette owner has that issue. Check that out this year, especially because I assume you run 93 on it.
Oh, yeah. So I do. We run premium in there, and I had my, I think the tune, guy named Dan tuned it for me. It was great. It's been a great tune. I requested, now I don't know what he actually did. I don't know if he was like, I'm going to give you a little sauce right here. But like, from my understanding.
I feel like every tuner does that a little bit. I was like, shut the fuck up.
I know, right? Like, quit being a bitch. Like,
what he don't know don't hurt him.
Yeah, for real. But I will tell you, it stayed together. And that car was a drift car a few years before I bought it. And,
oh, wow.
And I had some days on it. And then I've had it since 2020. And I've got a lot of drift days on it.
Yeah.
So the tune, I think in conjunction with that would be like just so I had a little bit of peace of mind. But I had him, I was like, set the rev limiter modest. Because I already know I'm gonna get way too far ahead of myself, and I'm not gonna think, oh, don't over rev it. So we set it kind of chill, and I'm like, give me a little richness at the top. And I'm not a tuner, but what I was trying to say was like, give me some wiggle room where I'm not leaning this thing out and kabooming. Right. So I think we did that, but that would make me sleep better at night for sure.
Oh yeah, dude. Definitely try it.
On that topic, I'll tell you another one. This is a plug, and I'm not even officially endorsed by them. But even if you're doing like a lower series, I think the importance of like running quality fluids, like in your oil and brake.
Oh yeah.
And because we run Redline.
I run all their oils too. Yeah.
So like we run like Redline in our stuff, and like in the diff and the trans and the engine, and Redline's got like a lot of zinc in it. But I think it all goes hand in hand with like maybe even some of the newer guys getting into drifting, as people think like, oh, well, I'm just starting out, so I don't need that. And it's always the newer guys that seem to have the worst time at the track. And even when they're on the little donut pad and like skid pad, it's like, man, if you had invested in your cooling setup, because they don't realize, I'm like, you're generating so much heat.
Yeah.
Because the car's not going anywhere. So if you had just ventilation, like power steering cooler, and overkill on the radiator and fans, like where you're actually moving some air, so that you could actually play a little longer without cooking everything. Because man, I used to like ruin my track days like so preemptively, not knowing all that or building that or thinking, oh, that's frivolous. I'll do that eventually.
All last year, just because of the type of build that I have.
Yeah.
With nobody really having the same swap or whatever. There's not very many people out there with it. So like I'm just a fish out of water, like not knowing what the fuck to do. So the weight and everything is off because the RB is so much further out over the front subframe, and like there's just so much that you just don't know.
Yeah.
Until you run into that specific problem.
Yep.
And then you can share the info so nobody else has to deal with it. But, yeah, that's interesting. I forgot what we were even talking about specifically.
Talking about race fuel and oils and things reliable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely try it out. And they ship like directly to your door and stuff. They'll do a whole barrel straight to your door.
That'd be
which is
sick.
Wild to me.
I'll try that out.
So
I think my cats are gutted. Don't tell anybody.
who cares? Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
We'll try something out.
All right, let me get back to whatever the fuck we were doing here.
I hope I'm answering these questions efficiently.
Oh no, dude, you're doing great.
I feel like I'm
This is
on
awesome.
these. I feel like I'm on these riffs. You were talking about how does Steck support me from a competition standpoint, and I don't even know if I gave that question. I don't even know if I gave the direct answer. I
think we
I
did.
feel like a corrupt politician. Like I
who cares?
ducked the original question.
All right, come on.
And then I riff off on a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm like, oh, the ADD is so bad. It's so bad.
No, you're good. We've covered majority of everything. But let's get like what is your essential goal with drifting? Like your end goal. Where do you want to get to as of right now?
Man, I'm in love with the sport. Honestly, I think every driver wants to get to a point where, in some form or fashion, that it's like sustainable without like redlining the rest of your life, so to speak. That to me is like if you had short term versus long term, is just getting to that point where, hey, I can do this. It's like, this is just a part of my lifestyle. This is what I do. And people go, hey, are you going to drive that event? And you're like, yeah, of course I'm going to drive that event because that's what I do. Like, yeah, you're going to see me there.
No question about it.
Versus,
I got to see, I got to make sure I can afford it or
correct. So that's a big one.
I get that.
That's really, I think, that's why I was wanting to hopefully like talk or just inspire certain people to just maybe try to pursue partners, like even if they're doing street legal or a smaller series, because any sort of form of sponsorship, right?
Yeah.
And not like, I know it's cringe and Irving's got the best like sponsor me bro memes I've ever seen in my entire life, and they're so funny. But if you can if you can creatively come up with a way to really provide value to like a demographic of a company where they see what you do, right? And even if it's like a partial sponsorship, where if somebody saves you like $1,500 off of something, well, let's just say a pretty good tire, like $150 for like a really good 265. Like that's a roundabout number.
About an average number, yeah.
Right. Well, think about how many like $150 265s for comp you're now able to buy because somebody gave you a discount. But like some of these guys don't want to like even run logos or even be grateful for anything. And I'm like, man, if you got like a few local small businesses that are kind of into what you're into from a fab standpoint or a body shop or a wrap shop or something, like it doesn't have to be like a big name. Like there's nothing wrong with, like my dad doing super stock.
I tell everyone start local.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just to be honest, you're only driving local events anyways. Who the fuck is that going to benefit the most? The locals.
Yeah,
so all the people coming into town, they're going to see this restaurant on the side of your car and like, that's where we're going to dinner after this.
Yeah. To me,
start there.
Yeah, exactly. To me, my car is like a gratitude machine, sort of. Like, it's like, thank you for this. And like, if they've contributed to your, journey at all, like the least you can do is
absolutely.
run a logo. But
at least for an event.
I think everybody, I don't know, I don't want to say everybody because there's a lot of good people that get it and think this way. I'm not saying like I've got the code cracked because I've had some opportunities that are way freaking cooler than I am and way bigger than me, you know, that's like mind blowing that I even have what I have. And I consider myself lucky and blessed and grateful. But if people were even willing to support your program, I mean, show up when you say you're going to show up, and at least take advantage of the opportunity to push your goals of like, when you ask like, what do I want from drifting is, you know, like I think having great partners on board are the only way you really can push yourself on that journey, you know,
absolutely.
to even do like bigger events. And like Nate Hamilton's the master of getting partners on board and figuring out a way to, how do we get this person and this thing and this to build this car and then do this, and then we're going to do these shootout events. And that's, you know, the way he's found a way to market that car and get enough people on board to create a sense of, you know, entertainment and value for everybody on board. Like that guy's, you know, he's doing something right by getting all of those people on board. And I think it's probably the way another one like thinks. But also,
and bless him for handling our merch.
Yeah, for sure. But
thank you.
He's do your shirt production and all that stuff too.
Yeah, he handled all of my merch and stuff is on his website. So he handles the fulfillment for shipping, delivery, all that stuff, customer service.
Yeah,
like it's amazing. Love the 144 guys.
That's sweet. Yeah, the way he does things is just great. Sorry, I'm on a tangent there.
He's got that creativity that he knows when something can be good and would turn out good before it ever even comes about.
Yeah.
So he's really good at pitching that as well, getting you to be able to see his vision and not just your own.
Oh, for sure. To say like what am I hoping to accomplish through drifting and all that. One is just to make it just that much more sustainable, where it's like, all right, this is a good part of the life. And then I would love to just see how far we can actually take it. And I'm trying to push myself as hard as I can within that realm of sustainability. So if we can, you know, continue to represent like my own small business and then also like other brands along the way. And I think it's fun to see like I'm involved in the paint protection film, you know, sector, like PPF and wraps and styling and all that stuff. So it's like, well, what other unique businesses that are kind of in that realm would go like, oh, that's kind of a PPF industry car. So it kind of makes sense so like if you have like Steck, you know, is a great partner of ours. So what other company that's kind of in that sector that as Steck shares that car, then organically people selling that same product in that sphere could benefit from that same kind of, or I love doing
I always just look at other drivers that are within that same brand and see what's working for them as well, and see if I can put my own twist on it for one, and not necessarily do the exact same thing. Like everyone in drifting now has some association to some type of glasses company, except I just didn't go with the main one that everybody else has used. And I have a decent relationship with the guy that owns BUMZ, and it was just perfect. So like you find your own little niche within the niche as well, and use that to your advantage. I think we're still learning ourselves.
I think that some of the smaller businesses, you know, or like even local or what, like my dad doing super stock, like did round track racing like growing up. Like he literally had like Sam's Superburger on the side of his car, but they paid the bills.
Damn Skippy.
So it's like, if that runs your program, well, if your partners are, you know, contributing to your program, then at least do right by the push hard, right?
Was she in NASCAR or some shit that got her title sponsor got banned because it was OnlyFans or something?
I saw that.
That was so funny, dude. I know that kind of sucks for her and her situation. Maybe hopefully she gets it cleared up, but
I saw that she had an interesting point with that one too. Maybe we ought to leave that topic alone. We're opening a can of worms.
Probably. I just wanted to bring that to attention because I saw it and I was like, That's so ironic that I just saw that the other day.
For her, I see why. I see what she was saying, though. The way that she expressed herself was like, man, if you were going to do this, could you have done it like before I had signed contracts and built my season around this financial partnership? So at least you could have given me an opportunity to pivot. Yeah. And that was her point. And I'm like, I kind of, agree with you there. Like the timing of it was the brutal part. Like, going with the values and
especially knowing more behind the scenes on how all that stuff can work and does work together. Bro, you can't just clean that up in a couple of weeks or months or however long they have. Yeah. That stuff takes a lot of time, and I'm sure that specific one took years of work to even get to the point where they were like, all right, we'll sign the contract.
No, for sure. And I'm sure she's gutted. I'm sure she's got enough talent, enough resources. Because, I mean, if you're building relationships with companies, like, how to talk and network and, create value for people. So I'm sure she's got the skills to carve out another relationship and find another sponsor. Yeah. But when you've got a whole plan and like the car, the travel, the team, and there's so much at that,
flips everything on its head.
Yeah, it's kind of a brutal timing for it. Yeah. Kind of wild.
Well, on some, I guess, more positive note, we can jump off of the whole OnlyFans thing. Yeah, for sure. But what would we'll just start with the last few questions, but what is your best piece of advice for just anyone getting into drifting in general?
Best piece of advice. I think don't wait for everything to be perfect before you go for it. Like, don't talk yourself out of trying and chasing, and like, don't spend so much time creating a case against yourself for like, oh, I don't have this, so I can't do this. Oh, I don't have that, so I can't do that.
Oh, I hate that mindset. I need this in place to do this. This in place to do this. I need this to happen to me to do this. No.
It took years. I mean, I still battle that. Like, it's very easy to just get in your own head and just talk yourself out of, like, it's easy to, especially like whatever's gone on in the past or anything, to just talk yourself out of, oh, well, yeah, man, that was dumb, or oh, that was stupid, or like, I had that moment even just reaching out to you and going like, hey, does this even sound like a good thing? Like, I sat there and had that moment where I was like, should I even,
I do it all the time,
pitch this? Yeah. And I think with drifting, it's like, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's going to be 10 times more work than what you think it is. But it's also going to be 100 times more fun than what you realize too. Yeah. And it's going to be
rewarding.
Yeah. The amount of people and just experiences that will just come out of the woodwork. Yeah. Just because you went for it. Like, you haven't even met the right people, like, or the next friend that's going to elevate your program, or the next relationship that's going to come along, because you can't picture them in your head. Yeah. But when you start going for it and you get out there and you get around people and you start asking questions, next thing you know, you've got a circle of people in your corner helping you out in relationships that, like, it's like, try to explain that to yourself a year ago. Yeah. You couldn't have pictured that. And just try it, and you'd be surprised what might happen. So that's my biggest piece of advice, I would say.
Good. I like it. Yeah. And this was a little deeper, of course, but if you had the opportunity to speak to the entire world, what would your one message be?
Oh, man, that might go hand in hand with that one, actually. That might be the same answer.
That's fair. That
might be the same answer, because I think it's kind of universal, honestly, because you could apply that to business. You know, like starting a business, starting a podcast, who brought that? Somebody brought that point up to me. Recently was my stepfather, actually, and he built a really good archery program at the high school, and my younger brother has taken that program over, but he's done like national champion, like he's in the school program. Like, he loves archery. He's devoted to teaching him, and where I'm going with that is, he said to me, because I was kind of beating myself up about like my priorities and, you know, like, oh, I have partners, but, you know, I don't even own a truck and trailer, right? Or just trying to figure out how to make everything work and just make do with what we got. So like I'm street driving to the events. And he was the one that kind of put that in my head. I got to give him some credit, but like they built that program at that high school. Like they don't have an official archery building. They literally have to move all the stuff out of the cafeteria and turn it into a place to have practice every day. And then put all the tables back and clean. And it's like, and he's like, man, if I'd waited for everything to be perfect before I started trying to make that, trying to make that program for these kids, we wouldn't have all these trophies and we wouldn't have these national champions. So it's like, there's always something that you have at your disposal that you can use to provide value, make something work, you know.
The way I see it is like,
just don't talk yourself out of it.
Yeah, it's all based out of fear anyway. So you're fearing that it's going to suck really bad. Well, congrats. Life sucks in general. So would you rather it be sucky at your regular 9 to 5, or would you rather it be sucky and doing stuff that you were crying the other night to be in the position of? Yeah. 'Cause I've been in so many positions where I don't even notice it until afterwards, and I'm like, wait a second. There's been moments where I've like genuinely been on my knees wanting to just rip my hair out because I wish I was in that position, and now I'm here, and it's like you didn't even pay attention to it while it was happening.
And it just kind of passed,
just
brushed
and right by
and
it.
Then you were on to the, it's like, you used to pray for where you're at right now, and you said, once I got here, I'd be happy. But now you're still pushing, you know, kind of philosophical there, but I think there's a lot of truth to it, because I'm not beyond it. I don't want to sound holier than thou.
I'm not either.
Like I've got it figured out.
Always keep chasing.
I think, but it's fun to keep pushing. I think is because
That is the fun part.
Yeah,
I love that
when you get the momentum going, and be like, well, now that this happened,
well,
let's see how far we can roll it.
And then you hit the brick wall, and it's like, fuck, this sucks, but you know it's gonna pick back up.
Sometimes it does. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it can be like that.
Brick walls suck.
Yep. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to mess up the editing thing.
The what?
The editing or the flow of the video. There was a couple. I just had a couple ideas, some things that we didn't even talk about. That'd have been really cool.
What was it?
Some of the collabs that it was kind of the story of the way the Steck relationship goes, and I realized I never touched on it, but it's pretty cool actually.
Oh,
like the way the Steck support goes.
What do you mean support?
Oh, like the way that like for competition in the drift car and where that led, like for the business and all that stuff. You were asking me earlier about how does Steck support like a street legal program.
Oh, yeah.
And
touch on it real quick.
Yeah, so I'd be amiss if I didn't bring this up.
This will be better. It's like good info.
Yeah.
Oh, then cool. The people that are still watching, you get the good info then.
Hopefully we can edit it in a way where I don't seem awkward or whatever. But anyway.
Nah, it's raw. We're good.
That kind of on the heels of like just going for it and not knowing where it's gonna lead. So like all of a sudden like the drifting was kind of helping me build the small business, and everybody kind of talks about doing that, but all of a sudden I have a partner where like I'm using their products every day. And so where that led to, that was 23 when I did that. That was 2023 when I had that first relationship with them, and we traveled for the Fuel Fest events. In 24, they're like, hey, we want to work with you again, but we want the big logo space.
Yeah.
So how do we make that happen? And that was unreal. And then we did like another version of the car. And then earlier that year, Officer Dan, do you know?
Yeah.
So he had, and this is all through social media, and he had a Midnight Purple 3 Rocket Bunny C5, and through a series of unfortunate events, the car had been just a nightmare scenario. Like every time they tried to make it nice, something bad would happen, and they got to repaint it, and then it gets messed up. Well, he didn't want to drive the thing, and he just wanted like some little pieces of PPF put on some certain spots, and then people tagged me in it, And I was like, hold on. And so then like I pitched it to Steck, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll get on board with this if y'all want to do something cool. And so I drove to New Mexico, and we did, instead of a couple of pieces, we did his full car, like every single.
Nice.
So we protected the whole Rocket Bunny Pandem kit on that car, so by hand, and that was amazing. And just getting to sit there and talk with like him about, okay, well, this guy's like a stunt driver, like he's a SAG approved stunt driver. He hosts drift events at Suica Circuit, and runs GK Tech North America out of this warehouse, and then creates all of this other content. And it's like, when you see things like that, like where, like if you were to ask me, like, what would you want drifting to do for you, is just figure out how it serves the lifestyle of like, I make this work in a way that's like, that creates a just
right now you're living a content like kind of life. It's all travel based, so there's no home position. So that is in itself is a big thing at the moment. You know, people living out of their vans and stuff, like just the travel life. So being able to work out something where it could be all of the cool ones that you have to like travel a good distance to, making content out of those, and you know, recording the process, a little behind the scenes with the person that owns the car, you know, maybe go on a test drive afterwards, show some of the results after just a quick test drive, stuff like that. I mean, you could work that into any type of deal as marketable content.
Yeah,
so
for sure, there's a lot.
That's good, dude.
There's a lot of cool stuff there. Then that one led to we actually went and did Evan Shank's car.
Oh yeah.
So that's dyno forged carbon on his Pro 370.
Gotcha.
And so,
okay.
So they were like, hey, we want you to go over there and do that car. So because we think y'all will mesh, and you're both into drifting, and so that was really cool to get to meet him and Victoria and
Evan's a cool dude.
Yeah, he is.
They both are. And Victoria.
For sure. I don't think people realize like how hard these content creators are actually working, and they catch a lot of flack, and what it takes to post like that all the time and move, and like, I mean, like if you say, hey, I'm doing this for content XYZ, like you don't just get the check and go, okay, well now I just sit back and YouTube just makes itself.
Yeah. You don't get to see them when they get to finally take a breath and not be around people.
Yeah.
That's when you get to reel them, and it's like, you're fucking tired, dude. You need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Go home for a minute. It is very insane. I could only imagine what someone on the scale of LZ does on a daily basis. I mean,
well, speaking of him, after that we went to Florida, and then we did his car.
His car, yeah.
So that guy was, he had just done, I think it was Long Beach, and the timing for it was like right around the Long Beach event.
Yeah.
And so we were doing the 10 mil thick PPF on his rally car, and so that was another venture for kind of like the drift community and people in that circle, right? I was supposed to fly in Monday.
Yeah.
And was going to start working on the car there. Well, I was like, you know what? I think it might be better if I fly in Sunday night so that I'm already there. And then I'll get up earlier. That way we can actually kind of have a full Monday. And then we'll start working on the car. And I don't remember what time I got to the compound. I think it was like 8, something like that. And I'm thinking, oh, he's not, like, we're just going to get started, and then he'll be back eventually, and then we'll shoot whatever.
Right.
Well, that Monday after Long Beach, I'm there at 8. He was already there in the building, and was like,
had a red-eye flight.
He was already awake, and it's like back from Long Beach, and is in there, and it's like, hey, let's film a little intro real quick, and then we're going to do this, and then I got to take this call, and then I got a meeting here, and then we're going to do this. And then that guy is moving, like all of them, like Evan Shanks, like Officer Dan, Adam LZ, like if they have any sort of like success in that sphere, these guys are moving at a rate of speed that like I
Isn't
think
even fathomable.
I don't
for the
think
only people watching.
95% of people that say I want to do this understand like how much work that is and how fast they're moving. And I'm sure you get a taste of that as well with a lot of the responsibilities with podcast and then making content and working with people.
Podcasts are a headache to deal with. My files are so fucking big for one. It's crazy.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine. And I have like so much content that I have so much guilt that's not out there yet that I'm like, I have to figure out when to sit down and edit this and learn how to do this and all that. So like to be over there and see how they run that operation from like a business standpoint. And he still took the time, which I mean, shout out to Adam for this. But that guy he was like, okay, I'm back from Long Beach. We got to shoot this video here. And then Mike's a great guy, like his video guy. Yeah. Like awesome working with them and like Owen and Johan and like all the team.
Yeah, they're all great.
They're all great. Just working with them, but like they're like wrenching on the car and rebuilding this whole thing like while I'm PPFing it, and then we have to find the story and then shoot it in here, and then like, dude, we got to film the outro, so even though the car's not done, like we got to wheel it out and kind of shoot the sides that have film on it so that it looks pretty, and then pull it back in so we can keep doing the thing, and then the edit, because he was leaving to go to Brazil like a couple days later, and I guess he had some crazy level like flight that he was supposed to be on. Like the next, like early, and it was like 11 o'clock. Like it was getting late. Yeah. And somewhere in there, he was like, "You didn't have lunch, did you?" I was like, "No, I just kind of worked through lunch." And somehow it came up. We were talking about curry, and he was like, "I'm gonna order some curry, and we'll eat some curry, and then I'll give you the tour." I'm like, "Dude, like you need to get out of here." Like so.
Don't you have better things to do, bro?
Well, he's sitting down, and it was really cool to see this, and because you get kind of like a little behind the scenes kind of look of like what this is like, and then so he got food delivered, and we sat down, and like even then, like the guy does not stop, and he's like, we're eating, and he's on a conference call like while we're eating, like a whole nother organizing an event and coordinating with people, and then we eat, and then like he still took the time to like give me the tour of the whole complex, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and was like, hey, I was like, all right, like aren't you flying out at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or something? But he was like, nah, dude, I want to show you. Yeah. And then we'd stop somewhere and we'd be talking. He's like, oh crap, I'm supposed to sign these before I leave. Hold on 1 second. And he's like, got to sign all these things. And it's just like, when you see that and be like, okay, like, because everybody says like, I want to be the next. I want to be the next. Like the perception in your head.
Of course.
Yeah. Maybe to circle back that 10x harder, 10 times harder than you think, but 100 times more fun. You know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Is like, man, if you
Everything
really
weighs itself out.
If you really knew what all this stuff kind of looks like behind the scenes, it's like, I don't know. I think
that's why I say a lot of the times to even chase down this type of route, you kind of have to have a little bit of psycho in you to be able to do that, because a lot of this stuff to the average person is not fun. But the problem solving and all that whole aspect of it, of not knowing, figuring it out, and then you succeed at it, that whole process is what I like. Almost with anything that I do. If I have somewhat of interest in it, dude, I love the whole process of just trying to figure it out.
Are you kind of like an all-in personality type?
Yes. Yeah. I find something I'm interested in, I dive head first in, I learn as much as possible until I'm bored with it, and then I'm done. I'm on to the next.
I think I'm kind of like that. So I don't know. I've been mislabeled.
So if something sticks for a little bit, though, I get kind of like overly obsessed with it. Just like this. Like this took off from the very first TikTok I ever posted. So like, I got obsessed over this, and I still am till this day. So like, this is something that I think is great for my soul, in a sense, because I was never good at talking. I was never good at having just normal, B2B conversations, and so
that's crazy though that to end up like right here. That good for the soul thing, man. It's the intangibles. That's a good word. Yeah, it's like the good for the soul thing.
Well, if you think about it, anyone that's successful has forced themselves into their weaknesses. So if you do that in a mass scale, it's got to work out somehow. So in my case, I wasn't the best communicator growing up. I was very shy personality, and this has opened up not only like my vocabulary, but like the way I speak to people, like, you know, pausing in certain areas, and I don't know, like being able to just go on a fucking meeting call with another company and talk about deals, like that stuff was not a thing for me, and I've been in sales my whole life.
Really?
So like, yeah, I don't know.
You think it just kind of came out? You think it just kind of came out naturally, or is it? I think it's easier, maybe. Like if I were to relate to you a little bit, I think it's easier when
It's
you actually
easier for me to talk to a camera than it is for a human than it is
Gotcha.
a human being.
I think you enjoy the topic that you're talking about too.
True. Yeah,
I
that's
think
something I didn't understand until I was in it, or till I'm like kind of recently, really, because I loved cars and I thought selling cars was it, and I was like, I could do that. It's great. I'm talking about exactly what I love, but it's not the same.
It's not.
It's you're selling features and you're selling a lifestyle of the car, and you're not. If you start talking about the things that are actually interesting to you, to someone looking at buying that car, you're going to scare them away. And I hated that.
Yeah.
I fucking hated that so much. So it was always like, you get to do something that's relative to it, but it's not it. And
Right.
it's like, it's so close to scratching that itch,
Yeah.
but it's not.
I understand that feeling very well. And when you're like when you're talking about that crazy part, I think it's much easier to push and go that extra mile when you're actually kind of working on something that you like if we could do car things for like a living, right? And then no one makes you go home and watch car videos. Like you're not doing that because somebody told you to do that. Like you're going to go home and watch car content because you
I don't
like
even
car
think it's
content.
cars, though. Like, let's just say I owned a car wash.
Right.
Or a Dollar General
Yeah.
or whatever. I would sit there, if I got through that first stage of some type of success, I would lose my fucking mind being obsessed over it.
Oh, I see.
So it's just that craving of like, oh my God, the concept that I worked up fucking worked. How can I do that better?
So it's like the success
It's
and
just-
progression thing.
Yeah,
I see.
it's the addictive part. It doesn't necessarily matter what I'm doing physically, but as long as I have a general interest in it,
Yeah.
it'll explode in my head.
So you think drifting and all this stuff will be a long-term thing for you?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you don't think
Drifting
you
is-
mentioned earlier that you get obsessed with it until you're bored with it and you on to the next thing. Do you see
Right.
this one sticking around longer
This one,
than the
yes.
rest?
Because of the amount of value it's brought back.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking monetary, I'm not talking parts, I'm not talking experiences, I'm talking like just the personal benefit it's brought me, and the value I have just solely myself. Everything else excluded, solely myself, the communication aspect of it. Just being able to talk to people like a normal human being is insane to me.
Yeah.
So
It's like the who you become along the way.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the best
You're
part.
chasing the person you want to be,
Yeah.
and not the person you are in the current moment.
Nah, for sure. That's probably the best part about all of it.
Yeah.
The intangibles.
It's a lonely fucking bitch, though, I will tell you that. Because I don't know who said it, but I think it was like Alex Ramosi or some shit. But there comes a point in like a path to success where it's just a lonely road for a while, because you've broken past the group of friends that doesn't align with your lifestyle anymore and is too, not to sound rude, but like lower scaled, but you haven't made it to that next threshold of group of friends that is successful in the higher ranking or whatever. So like you're kind of just walking that middle ground by yourself, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah. There's like a lot of my friends, like, thank God, like we're kind of into the drift community thing, because like we see each other at the track, but I'm not nearly as social as what I used to be. Like it's not uncommon. Like it's Saturday now, and like I'll be flying back tonight, and then tomorrow's Sunday. I'm working Sunday, continuing to wrap. And then when you commit to these things and you have deadlines, if something goes wrong, you have to make up time. And then,
I don't remember a day that I wasn't working.
yeah. And it's like, it's a lot more of a commitment than anyone I think really realizes, but it's like I'm not out, chilling and just chillaxing and,
You love what you do. You never work a day in your life.
Yep. That's a wrap right there.
And scene. We're done. Bye.
That's funny. That's good stuff.
No, I love it, man. This was a good one. I really enjoyed this.
I hope so. I hope I wasn't all over the place. I hope we find the story somewhere.
I do it every week. So, is there anyone you want to shout out though? You want to shout out any sponsors other than Steck? I know we've talked a lot about them, but you can shout them out again if you want.
Yeah, I'd really grateful for all of the partners and people that believed in us along the way and have helped us out in more ways than I can count, like Kevin and Gabby from Rinspec and Michael Hahn and Daniel and John and Benjamin and Esteban, Casey, Nick, all those good folks at Steck USA for believing in us and making us feel like a superhero.
Can't believe you remembered that many names from one location. That's crazy.
That's one location. Let's see if I can compartmentalize.
Oh
into
God,
the next.
we don't have to do all that.
Who else do I have? No, I'm just, no. I mean, I've got so many good people, like my good friend Corey and other folks, but they know who they are, and
yeah.
I think we shouted out a few good people in there, but it's pretty organic, and mom, stepdad, brother, Miles, all the good folks, because they've put up with the pursuit of drifting for a long time. Yeah. Long time. So
cool, dude.
Never try to talk me out of it.
We'll keep on chugging.
Yep.
They'll keep supporting, I'm sure.
Sweet, man.
But yeah, I guess that's all we got. So of course, look below the video. Make sure you got the subscribe button clicked. Links to everything you always need in the description. Of course, do not miss out. 20% on Zach Novas. Take advantage of it while you can. And yeah, I will see you each and every Sunday for a brand new episode.
Stacking way up to the ceiling. Trust no bitch, can't catch no feelings. I've been taking long flights from the Bay to Ibiza. Hit home runs, I'm a ball like Jeter. I just want fuck, then I leave her. I'm a young pop star, call the boy Justin Bieber. Got a little money if you want, I can teach you. Whole life a movie, you can watch it in theater. Stacking way up to the ceiling. Trust no bitch, can't catch no